We are live.
We're live. Oh my God.
We are alive.
Yeah. Welcome to Burnout Studios, where we are alive. Last time we did a podcast, I read basically what I had wrote of a story of the town called Liberty, which is a series of books that I'm writing, because we were talking about doing them as a as kind of a picture book format that we were going to read on YouTube so people could see the pictures and hear the story, together. But when I read it before, it was just audio. There was no picture. But now, as you can see on the screen here, which I guess no, that way it's right there. I'm going to read this again. I apologize. It's kind of a repeat of what I read before. And later in the story, I did finish the story all the way. We don't have pictures for that yet, but we can kind of fill those in as we go. So, once again, here's the story with pictures of a town called Liberty. First book gave the title of Curiosity Kills, which is funny because I've also I thought maybe Green Energy was another one, but that one was too obvious. Anyway, the sign was big and bold. It was visible for miles before entering Liberty. It was
maybe the book should be called Curiosity Kills, and this one's a town called Liberty.
What, the whole series?
I don't know. Because
I'm trying to think of if all the stories involve. I'll give a thought about
that. I don't know. That's kind of. I just thought of that. I was like, ooh, that's kind of.
Right, but a town called the Liberty is where all the stories take place.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we'll think about that. The sign was big and bold. It was visible for miles before entering Liberty. It was held in the air on one large pyramid-shaped cement pylon. The billboard-like sign had only one word: Liberty. The monorail rocketed past the sign, leaving the woodlands, heading over a small hill and down into a city built along the coastline. The television and speaker system softly played. My fellow Americans, I stand before you today truly proud of what we have accomplished. Today is a historic day, but not only for Liberty City. Today is a day for celebration, a celebration for the world. Many years ago, a promise was made. The promise was to care for our Mother Earth. It began as a movement. Like all great movements, it started small. People began recycling campaigns. People started to carpool. People started using less plastic and styrofoams. Scrolling. Samantha pressed her face against the glass, staring out at the city as it zoomed closer. Samantha beamed at her parents seated on the train next to her. Her parents looked on her with pride. They admired the new blue sundress they had bought her. Her fluffy afro was separated in pigtails, making two fluffy pom-poms on her head. That guy in the front kind of looks like Nelson Mandela.
Does he? Little, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Sorry. People gazed up at... Whoops. My computer's not as big screen. Anyway, people gazed up at the train from the seats of the city below, or from the streets of the city below, as it streaked into town to deliver the people to the city's many shops and sights. People glanced for a moment as the train passed by and came to a stop in the nearby station, located in the heart of the shopping district. People crowded the shopping mall, moving from one shop to another, busy enjoying the families and friends accompanying them. The radio system at the mall continued playing the broadcast. Many states began to change the law based on the thoughtful, selfless actions of its citizens. Then, over time, a fundamental shift in the way people think happened. People everywhere stopped caring only about themselves and they began to recognize we must care for all life on this planet. We must stop the pollution. We must stop the torture of the animals. Stop the torture of the animals we share this world with, and we must at all costs begin treating the environment as the fragile beauty that it is. I do like her hair. Anyway. A police officer outside the mall stepped out of his electric vehicle. He scribbled out a parking ticket for a vehicle parked in front of a fire hydrant. His car radio continued. The movement began to grow. People demanded cars that would not pollute. They demanded plastics that would biodegrade. Passengers depart the monorail and either ride escalators or take the stairs down into the mall. The mall has many video billboard systems that flash through the advertisements for the numerous shops and for the people when they reach the mall below. They demanded a monorail system that connected the United States like it had never been connected before. Faster, quieter, safer national travel, but not just for the passengers and the air they breathed, but it was also safer for the animals that lived underneath the raised tracks it glided upon. So you'll notice that some of these don't have pictures, and we need to, we'll fill it in. We'll either fill it in or just omit it completely. Maria looked out from her balcony as she sipped her morning coffee. The world below her apartment was already moving at a fast pace. The monorail was dropping off people, and all the shops were open for business. She continued to get ready for the day as her television played. People began to realize they didn't need to live spread about. They recognized the impact the endless housing developments were having on the environment. People began moving into cities to allow the animals to reclaim their precious habitat. But the one most important hazard to the environment was our electrical producing industry. As I said in the beginning, we, the American government, made the people of this great country a promise. We promised to phase out the harmful energy producers such as coal and oil plants and replace them with cleaner, eco-friendly power producers. Wind, solar, and hydroelectric offer the world a break from the toxins produced by the traditional power plants. Charlie sprinted from his car. He was late for his class. He ran through the quad in the center of the campus. He understood that college wasn't the same as high school, but he hated being late. The PA system continued the public broadcast throughout the hallways in the college. The transition has not been easy. The people of the city have been willing to be without power at times. But these sacrifices the people make for the greater good, and when asked, the average person will respond with pride, we must sacrifice for the greater good. There's a picture of the college campus. Get her good.
Greater good. The Hot Fuzz.
Oh, yeah. John stared dreamily at Beth. She sat one row in front of him and 3 seats to the left of him in his science class. John was now a junior in college and luckily knew with fair certainty what he wanted to do once he graduated from college. Most importantly, he knew who he wanted by his side when he started on his life path. He started to drift off thinking about how he should ask Beth to marry him. His dream was interrupted when a hand pushed on his shoulder. He glanced to his right where his friend Carl announced in a whisper, "Dude, they are about to mention you." John looked up to the front of the class, refocusing on the television. Many people share this selfless view. Our colleges have worked tirelessly with our community leaders. They share in this award. The president shifted his focus from the cameras and reporters in front of him to the suit-wearing people seated next to the stage. "Please, Mayor, will you join me on the stage so I may award you with this token of appreciation?" The mayor jolted from his chair, from the chair he is seated in. Excitedly, he moved over to the president. The smile and joy on his face showed his proud moment. I think there is a picture of, well, it's kind of a, I don't know. I don't know if that picture exactly fits, but anyway. Professor Williams exhaled a genuine sound of amazement. He pushed the button on the remote control in his hand, and the television clicked to black. He turned to face the students, who are beaming with excitement as well. "Oh my goodness, wasn't that amazing?" the professor exclaimed to the class. "I wish the president would have mentioned our school by name, but this is still exciting." Trying to figure out what that nerd would sound like. The professor placed the remote on his desk and retrieved a picture frame laying in the middle of his desk. "Well, class, I think we all know what time it is," the professor announced as he held up the picture frame. A certificate was centered in the frame. "John McDonald, will you please join us down here?" The class erupted in hoots and cheers. John was having trouble getting out of his seat as his friends and classmates surrounded him, all jockeying for a chance to slap him on the back or give him a high five. I like that picture a lot. That's one of my favorite pictures out of all.
This one?
Yeah. That one where they're all slapping him on the back and, John accepted the award, and at the end of the school day, he and Beth walked through the city on the way to her home. It was his daily routine to walk her home and buy her a meal on the way. As they were leaving the burger and ice cream shop, Beth exclaimed, "Hold on, time out.
What did he get the award for?"
He actually wrote an essay. Maybe I should explain that somewhere in there. It was an essay contest. But anyway, to raise money, blah, blah, blah type stuff. I was just wondering, do you think burgers and ice cream would still be a thing?
I don't think marriage is a thing.
Right. Traditional marriage.
Right.
No, I think it would still be a thing. It would just be something that would be openly shunned,
Right, so that's why I don't think he would talk about it.
But there would still be desire in some people's hearts to form a partnership and all that kind of stuff. But
maybe that, I would maybe change marriage to partnership or something like that.
That's possible. Yeah, I can do that.
Well, it would be a burger, but it would be a Beyond Burger.
Right. Yeah. So burger shop still sounds
and
okay.
Ice cream is soy.
Right.
Soy cream.
But I mean, it can still, yeah, okay. So the name could still fit. Okay. Anyway, as they were leaving the burger and ice cream shop, Beth exclaimed, "I still can't believe it. This is the start of everything for you. I mean, I still don't know what I'm going to do after college. But you already have an internship with a government agency. This is huge."
This is huge.
Huge.
That's what she said.
Child. John drank from a paper cup he had left over from his meal. "Well, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't in shock. But I'm also a lot scared. You are right. This is huge. I hope I impress them." He chewed on the straw from his drink. Beth approached John, taking the cup from his hand. She dropped it in the public trash can they were standing next to. She pulled the straw from John's mouth and kissed him softly on the lips. As she stepped away, John's eyes closed and she said, "John, you impress me every day, and I am positive you will do the same for them." John nervously sat in front of a desk. He stared at the empty chair behind the desk. The anticipation was killing John. The person who belonged behind the desk was his new boss. "Hello, John," a voice said behind John, making him jump a little. John turned as an elderly, balding man entered the room and took a seat behind the desk. John rose to his feet and extended a handshake. Hi, I'm John. Wait, you already said that. Hello, it's good to meet you. Thank you for this opportunity, John stammered out. Hello again, John. My name is Ernie Schwartz. You can call me Ernie. Ernie responded, shaking John's hand. I guess you are excited to get started? The main building was huge. It housed hundreds of offices. The energy department seemed separated into many departments. John's tour ended in the basement, though. He sat behind a large bank of computer screens. They showed every power plant source in Liberty, wind farms, solar farms, and the hydroelectric dam. John's new job was to monitor the screens. John was thankful when Ernie stopped by 4 hours later to check on him. The job was mind-numbingly dull. He literally stared at the screens all day. He monitored if there were any problems, and so far, nothing seemed to ever go wrong. Ernie asked, "How are things running?" John just shrugged. "Nothing has really changed." Ernie smiled and responded, "Here, let me show you a few things." Ernie slid in close to John and moved the keyboard a little so he could type. This system keeps historical data and has recorded the energy output since it went online. So, if you wanted to, you could see how we compare historically to old production methods. Or you could see over time, as the farm grew, and how the energy... Or you could see how over time, as the farm grew, so has the energy output. It also will show you the farms produce more. You can compare wind to solar. You can do a lot. Well, anyway, this is where you will be spending most of your time, so you might as well get to know the system, Ernie explained as he keyed in the different reports into the computer. And if I find any drops, John asked. You would report them to me, Ernie answered. What would cause a drop in power? Many different causes. Well, in case of solar, there is a drop at night and during stormy weather. Wind farms, of course, need wind. When the weather's calm, we see a drop in power, and the drop is significant. Energy is best produced when the generators meet a constant speed, and with the more traditional methods, it was easy, but nature can't seem to spin the blades at a constant rate. But the beauty of the grid is the wind and the solar cover each other. In storms, the wind farms produce much better, and in turn, when the weather is calm, the solar does best. But I'm sure you will see this for yourself. Then the ace in the hole is our hydroelectric plant. It does the best at turning the generators, Ernie concluded. He clicked some keys and the screen returned to the current power outputs. Anyway, I think you've had enough for your first day. I will see you bright and early tomorrow, Ernie said quickly and motioned John toward the door. Sounds good. See you tomorrow, John replied. Anyway, we need to insert pictures into this, obviously. But, we'll get there. The next morning, John happily typed away at the keyboard while closely reading the historical charts. He first went back as far as he could to compare the wind and solar to coal power. Coal did produce more power according to the charts, but the impact on the environment was too great, John reminded himself. The next, John looked at the chart comparing wind and to solar for the last 5 years. The chart compared 10 wind farms to 10 solar farms. The chart showed fluctuations for all the power farms except for one did not seem to fluctuate. John looked at the computer confused. He typed some more into the computer, bringing up a new report showing just a chart of that one wind farm over a 5-year period. That's so strange, John exclaimed softly. What's strange? Ernie asked from over his shoulder. John jumped a little in his chair and turned to face Ernie, who was drinking coffee from a brown porcelain mug. Oh, hello, sir. You scared me a little, John replied. What are you looking at? Ernie asked again. I was looking at the power farms for over a 5-year period, and I noticed something strange. One of the wind farms doesn't fluctuate in power the same way the other plants do, John replied. Ernie put the cup up to his lips, and right before he took a drink, he responded, "That is weird." John smiled and continued, "What would cause no fluctuation?" "That's the million-dollar question," Ernie remarked. John looked at him inquisitively and asked, "What do you mean?" Ernie rolled his eyes like he had told this story 1,000 times. "You aren't the first to discover this. We can't figure out why it does this. I would put it out of your mind. It is most likely a glitch in the computer." "Maybe I can figure it out," John remarked. Ernie looked sternly at John and stated firmly, "That is not your job. Let me be clear. Take that out of your mind and just focus on the job in front of you." John opened his mouth to object. "John, please don't make me repeat myself. Just do your job. I will see you later," Ernie exclaimed, and he turned and walked away. John chewed his food, deep in contemplation. He stared down at his fork as he pushed around his broccoli on his plate. I'm pretty sure there'll still be broccoli. Sorry. "John, it's probably some kind of test," Beth exclaimed from across the table. "Test?" John stated as a question. "Yeah, maybe they want you to figure it out," Beth explained. John contemplated it for a moment and replied, "I don't think so. He sounded pretty serious about not looking into it." John retorted. "Well, I guess you should give up then," Beth stated. John smiled, knowing full well she was using reverse psychology. "Yep, I promise I won't look into it," he replied happily. John was surprised how far the drive was out to the wind farm. He exited the freeway and headed for the windmills in the distance. Not surprisingly, there was a tall chain-link fence surrounding the entire farm. There was a gate and a small guard shack at the gate. An armed guard exited the shack and approached the car as John came to a stop. "Can I help you, sir?" the soldier asked John through his driver's side window. John produced his ID badge from his wallet and handed it to the soldier. The soldier looked at the ID badge, handed it back to John, saying, "That's nice, John, but what the hell are you out here for?" John grabbed his ID and stared up at the soldier. I work for the company and I wanted to see the wind farm." The soldier shook his head before replying, "You are the only person I have ever seen trying to do a tour. Sir, this is not a park. This is a government facility, and it would be a security risk for you to take a tour. It is my job to protect the people, and in this case it means protecting the electricity they enjoy." "But, no, John, go home," the soldier responded. Please, can you at least answer one question for me?" John blurted out. The soldier looked annoyed and replied, "What?" John pointed through his windshield to a small one-story building in the middle of the wind farm and asked, "What is that building?" "Goodbye, sir," the soldier responds as he turned and walked away. John screams out the window, "No other wind farm has a building like that on it." The soldier turned before entering the guard shack, thumbed back towards the road John came in on, and replied, "Fuck off, sir." He then rested his hand on his pistol. John put his car in reverse and backed out of the driveway and drove away. John drove down the road till he was out of sight of the guard shack and found a small road leading around the perimeter of the fence surrounding the wind farm. He was looking for a back gate, but after 10 minutes of driving, he couldn't see one. He stopped his car and got out. He approached the fence and stared through the building in the center of the huge farm of windmills. He stared intently at the building, looking for any movement. He listened intently, hoping to hear something that would give him a clue to solve the mystery of the building. It just didn't belong on the wind farm. He thought maybe it was an office, but he could clearly see there was no windows, just one door, just a big, square, boring-looking building. He suddenly heard a noise growing louder. It was a hum. Electronic, possibly a fan. It grew louder. He recognized the sound, but he recognized the sound. He was sure he had heard it before. But what was it? It was coming from above. John snapped his head skyward. There it was. The drone filmed him from above. Oh shit, John whispered to himself. He turned quickly, heading to his car. As he reached the door handle, "John!" a voice shouted. John turned toward the sound of the voice. He could see a gray-haired man in a nice suit. The man smiled. Then John heard a rustle behind him. He shifted to turn, but was struck in the face. Stars exploded in his eyes. He fell hard to the ground. The wind escaped his lungs when he hit the ground. John stared up at his attacker, a black man wearing a nice suit matching the gray-haired man's suit. John tried to stand, but was met with a foot from the well-dressed black man. The man stomped John to the ground and held him there as the gray-haired man approached. The gray-haired man spoke. "Mr. McDonald, my name is Brzezinski. I don't know if I spelled that right."
No, not the way that I had it, but that's fine. It doesn't
I
matter.
couldn't remember how to spell it. I know how to say it, so I just kind of sounded it
I think
out.
it's more like
B-E-R or
Bree, like
Brzezinski.
Brzezinski.
Okay.
Brzezinski, something like that. But
Right. "Mr. McDonald, my name is Brzezinski, and I'm here to help," he said as he knelt and held up an ID badge that read H.E.L.P. The Homeland Environmental and Labor Proctor. The federal police force formed after the government started tracking every citizen's carbon footprint and social score. They were the new terrorist watchdogs and were tasked with protecting the citizens of America. The black man took his foot off John. "This is my partner, Jones," Brzezinski declared. John sat up and asked, "Why are you here?" "This is a federal facility, Mr. McDonald. Even if you work for the government, it does not give you the right to break into this facility," Brzezinski explained. John violently shook his head no, and exclaimed, "But I didn't." "Let me stop you right there, Mr. McDonald," Brzezinski said, holding up his hand. "I know you didn't technically break into this facility. Hell, you're still on this side of the fence, right?" John nodded his head frantically. Brzezinski continued, "Like I said, I'm here to help you. I'm helping you by making sure you don't do something stupid and ruin your life. Now I want you to get back in your car and drive home. You will forget all about this, and you will continue your job with no questions. If you do not, I promise your life will be ruined. Now, pretty please, with sugar on top, get in your fucking car." John sat. I really liked the bad guy Brzezinski. He's a reoccurring character, just so everybody out there knows. I really like the personality that I have in my mind for him. You know,
yeah.
He's kind of a smart ass, really intelligent, ruthless. He's a great character.
Yeah, I don't know if you would. I think
And then Johnson
it's
is
more ruthless if he didn't swear at the end there. Just told him to get in his car and leave.
I liked. I
That's not.
kind of picture him.
Because nice is scary.
I kind of picture him as a. I don't know, not quite as fast as David Spade, but you know, kind of that type of personality. He always knows what to say. He's never stumbled.
When I drew him, I was thinking of Michael Caine.
Yeah.
And so that's
he's a well-spoken guy too.
Right. But it's very matter of fact.
Right.
And it's like when they're nice to you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when it's even scarier.
Right. Well, also, you know, the fact that Johnson is stepping on your chest.
Right. But I mean,
or Jones. Sorry, Jones.
Right. But I mean, but when he's like super nice, you know, and to me is scary. But
Right.
but when he just swears, it's like, oh, you're just a hard ass. So we know what that. But if he didn't, then you're like, oh, not that kind of guy.
Right.
Yeah.
John sat slumped in a corner of his bedroom. Beth sat on a bed and spoke. They sent a video of you to me. It was taken from the drone outside the wind farm. They say if you say anything to anybody,
From a drone.
they
Or I don't.
yeah, well,
It was
a
taken.
drone.
It was taken outside a wind farm, because she doesn't know it was a drone, and she doesn't know he was at the wind farm. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
They say if you say anything to anybody, they will label you a terrorist and your credit and social score will be 0. No credits, no food, no home, no life any longer. John shook his head. I'm sorry, Beth. I will fix this. Tears streamed from Beth's eyes. John, there is no fixing this. They can choose to destroy your life whenever they feel like it. I am sorry for suggesting you find an answer. I'm sorry this happened, but most of all, I'm sorry I have to leave. John spoke through his tears. Beth, you are my future. Every part of me knows that. I don't have to keep the job at the power company. I can get a different job and just keep a low profile. Beth stood from the bed. I'm sorry, John. You and me both know there is no low profile. Beth walked out of the room while John continued to cry in the corner. I don't know whether I should have made that scene last longer.
well, my only thing is she a revolutionary,
Well,
or is she just a?
she's her character, the way I have it figured is yeah, she's one of those people that doesn't necessarily like the government control.
I always thought of her just as
The doting girlfriend?
just the lockstep, believes it all, just kind of
Right.
going along, and
No.
like up there at the beginning, they say if you say anything, they say if you say anything to anybody, they will label you as a terrorist. I think it'd be interesting if this says, because like they labeled they called you a terrorist.
Right.
I mean, like the video is already cut and edited. Not, look, this is what we'll do to you. It's no, this is the video that will be aired
Right.
tomorrow. And in the video, they say you are a terrorist, not labeled. No, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it'd be interesting if she was reacting that way.
Right.
But because if she's the activist, then
No, I mean, really, she's just more scared of this stuff spilling onto her. She just doesn't want to be on the government radar at all. So that's why she's leaving John.
right. So that's why it might like, this says you're a terrorist, John. Or yeah, this says you were doing your blah 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 blah.
Right.
We hear about this, but nobody ever says these things are real. But they say that family members and friends have their food taken away, their homes taken away,
Right.
everything's gone. I'm sorry, John, I can't be this.
Right.
It's a lie. It's not true. I can't take that chance.
Right.
it'd
So you're
be-
you're saying that yes, this needs to be longer conversation.
but not so much. No, it's not as long as just slightly different.
Right.
Just instead of so much the activist,
It
it's
just
like
shows her more showing her motivation of just not wanting to be
realizing the boogeyman might be real.
right.
That the stories of them black bagging people or doing things that's just supposed to be hearsay, things
Right.
that doesn't happen on a regular
Right.
basis.
Because the president every day says no, that stuff doesn't happen.
Right. But all of a sudden, here she knows who he is, or who she thinks she believes he is,
Mm-hmm.
and here she's getting a video where they're saying, "Here's the trick." And what'd be interesting is if it was like cut from the nightly news,
Right.
not like
Right. Like they already filmed
they've
the whole
already filmed
the
it.
segment
Yes,
with the
with
right.
the freaking actual anchor,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, you know, her world's crashing, coming down on her,
Right.
and she's just like, you know,
Right.
they take everything. Everything can just be gone in a heartbeat. With
Right.
then maybe the realization of, oh my gosh, if they label you as a terrorist,
What will they label me?
then I will get doxxed on my
Social score.
social score
Right.
for being associated with you.
Mm-hmm.
Then I won't be able to get my promotion. Then I won't be able to get my, and then John, I gotta go.
Right.
Or you know, and he's like, no, stay. No, I got it. You know,
Right.
and she leaves and he crumbles at the door type thing. Yeah, you know, that'd be, because then that's a way of explaining the system
Right.
without
I mean,
narrating the system.
right.
Whereas, you know, you're not, you know, it's that episode of Black Mirror, you know, where they send each other 5 stars things.
I still haven't watched.
But you know, they send each other those 5 stars, and that's it's like as soon as that would go live, everybody that is friends with her would send her 1 star
Right.
instantly. Can't be associated with that. And then her score would plummet, which then would kick her out of her apartment and make her move to a slum on the outskirts.
Right.
Her, if she had a decent job or something like that, she'd get kicked out of that. Boom! It's just a domino.
Yep.
Fascinating. Yeah.
Well, anyway, sorry.
right,
We
sorry.
get off on tangents. But I mean, it's actually, that was a really good one, though. Anyway, 2 days, John, for 2 days,
John laid.
laid on his bed, staring at the ceiling. He mostly thought of Beth, but his thoughts would inevitably shift to one word: why? Why are they doing this? Why are they willing to destroy my life? What are they protecting? What is in that building? Why doesn't the power output fluctuate? Beth left because they are in your life and she fears them. How do I get them out of my life? Are all these questions impossible to answer? I can't get them out of my life. I can't get Beth back, but I might be able to get an answer to what they are hiding. John spent the next 2 days walking out of the city. He knew his car would be tracked. He left his cell phone at home for the same reason. He slept amongst the homeless population under overpasses, and once out of the city, he slept under the stars on the cold, hard ground. He finally had made it. The fence was in view. He waited until nightfall to make his move. He could not hear any drones as he cut a hole in the fence. He sprinted as quietly as he could toward the building in the center of the farm. Surprisingly, the door was unlocked.
I don't know if there needs to be a fence either.
Well, yeah, because it's so far out of town, but no, I would think that a government facility would have a fence. Yeah.
What do they got? You know,
The guard and
what do they
everything.
got to hide?
Well, yeah.
Well, I mean, not only that, but like the guard said, nobody's ever come out here.
Right.
You know, so
Right. What a boring job that would be, huh? Guarding a wind farm. Anyway, he sprinted as quietly as surprisingly, the door was unlocked. He found himself in an empty room. In front of him was a set of elevator doors. John pushed the elevator call button. He heard the elevator coming far below the room he was in. A bell pinged, and the elevator door slid open. Brzezinski was standing in the elevator. "I'm disappointed, John," Brzezinski exclaimed. John hesitated, not sure what to do. Brzezinski asked, "Are you getting in?" John walked into the elevator, and the door shut. The elevator dropped for what seemed like a minute and finally came to a stop. The door slid open, and Brzezinski gave John an "after you" gesture. John stepped out of the elevator and stared down a long hallway leading to the right. He looked at Brzezinski and asked, "What is down here?" Brzezinski motioned for him to continue walking. The hallway ended with a set of double doors. John opened the doors. The room on the other side was enormous, a giant underground cavern. In the center of the cavern was a huge building with 3 smokestacks going up into the ceiling of the cavern.
He likes huge.
It's huge. It's big, beautiful. You've never seen a cavern like it. It's
Made by the best.
It's
For the best.
It was dug by the best. Anyway, it's a power plant, isn't it? John asked. Brzezinski began. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's cold fire and has produced a lot more energy than the wind turbines on the surface. But why? John began to ask, but he was cut short by Brzezinski as he continued speaking. The city needs power. Are you old enough to remember the rolling blackouts? Are you old enough to remember the riots and the crime, the lack of electricity? How do you buy food with no credit? But the people would understand, John began to say. Ha! You believe that? The people were made a promise. Green energy was that promise. No more fossil fuels. If the people found out we were still using them, they would lose faith in the government. They would lose faith in the system, and the system could fall apart. But the size of the wind farms and the sheer number of them, isn't that enough? John asked. Brzezinski shook his head and answered, "Now that you have seen this plant, I think you've answered that question. This plant provides us with the power we need." John continued to shake his head in disbelief. "The people have a right to know," John declared. Brzezinski nodded his head. "They might indeed, but it is my job to protect the citizens of the country, even from themselves." Brzezinski replied as he reached into his sports coat. John lunged, shoving Brzezinski hard in the chest, and then he turned to run for the door. He felt the arm slam into his throat, and his feet shot out from under him. He slammed to the floor once again. He stared up at Brzezinski's partner, Jones. "I'm sorry, Mr. McDonald, but it has to be this way," Brzezinski explained. As he pulled the pistol from his shoulder holster, "You won't get away with this. My family will come looking for me," John screamed as Brzezinski pointed the gun down at him. That's what I'll miss the most about you, John," he said as he racked back the hammer on his CZ 9mm. Yeah, favorite gun. Shut up. Your sense of humor. Bang. The end. Of course he's going to have a pretty gun.
That's funny.
I didn't actually give a model, but I would like to have a nice picture of that gun pointing down and Brzezinski holding it. I think that would be really a cool picture. You know? So that was the end of the story. Rest in peace, John.
Yeah, it's funny because I read this so much with like Michael Caine, you know.
Oh yeah,
It's like
he is a good.
right here when he says, "But the size of the wind farms and the sheer number of them, isn't that enough?" And then I think of John like as Tim Pool, kind of, you know what I mean? But the size of the wind farms
Tim Pool. Yeah,
and the sheer number of them, isn't that enough? John asked Brzezinski. Brzezinski shook his head and answered, Now that you've seen this plant, I think you have to answer that. I think you have answered that question, John. This plant provides us with the power we need, with all the power we need." But throwing in his name, I like throwing in his first name here and there in spots because it's like I could see him doing that. It's that first person familiarity that's kind of once again creepy, right?
Right.
He thinks you're on first person friends narrative instead of down here. I'm sorry, Mr. McDonald. I'm sorry, John, but it has to be this way. You won't get away with this. My family will come looking for me. That's what I'll miss about you. Most about you, John. No one gives a fuck about a terrorist.
I like the sense of humor line. That's what I'll miss about you the most. Your sense of humor. The end. But yeah, I think that'll look good. Once we edit it together with pictures and everything, and
Yeah.
give it one final read.
Like I said, I think there's just some things that would help it flow a little bit. But
Right.
other than that, I think it's all there.
Got to increase that picture, or got to increase that conversation a little bit between Beth and John.
I think it's just
Because I
defining
think
the
you're right
characters.
that explaining what her fear is important for the readers. The whole credit system. I mean, it kind of covers it, but
Well,
it'd be better to go in a little bit more detail.
Well, once again, it's kind of like what I was talking about at the beginning, not the beginning, but before the show, was being descriptive with it, but not narrative,
Right.
narrating it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, show it happening. And
Right.
We don't need it told at us.
Right.
Let it happen to us.
Right.
And so there's a few things in here that I think are kind of like that at times, when I think we could let it happen to us instead of it being like there's some little stuff like they gazed up at the, but it's like as the throng of people moved in and out of the shops and restaurant, or blah 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 blah, carrying all the shop, they watched the train pass by.
Right.
Just something like that. But it talks about this happening, and that goes by, instead of it being narrated what's happening, type of thing.
Right.
That's the only.
Yeah, I was just
things-
trying to complete the loop of because the train just brings us into the scene, basically.
Right, but it's just like with the people. So that's the thing, though. Here we're having the people doing something, but then all this is being narrated, but they're actually, I think that was the taking me out of why the people needed names.
Right.
So, and then I was thinking of a great way to do that one with the girl with the coffee in the morning was to make sure that maybe she's at the coffee maker pouring her a cup of coffee. The train's going by in the background somehow, doing some angle so you can see all that, and then see a tablet on her table that has the picture of the president talking. So in each
the
one of
hippie
those,
idiots that hang out in coffee shops with their laptops.
Well, the whole idea though, I mean, like even here, you say that there's all these screens and stuff and billboard system, video.
They're
I
everywhere.
don't think you need to say it. We all know what that all looks like. You know what I mean? But
Right.
but we put that in there, and then I think the important thing would be to show the president in each and every one of those scenes
Screens, right.
on a screen somewhere, if
Right.
it's even small. And so then we have the words coming out.
Well, that's just it. Is when I was writing this, because I was writing this, knowing that there's going to be pictures going along with this, so it was hard for me to decide what to describe and what not to describe to
Right.
let the picture.
And I think that's where that's why I was saying before we once again asked, because it seemed like it's been a while since you've written some things. It's almost, this is like a hybrid of how you would write your scripts
Right.
and the novel.
Right.
Where I think what you need to do is write this as the novel.
I don't know.
No, you write it as the novel, and then we interject the scenes to bring it to life.
Right.
So,
but I don't know. I mean that I think that the pictures are important, and you know, the old saying, you know, pictures are worth 1,000 words, and it's true.
well, yeah, but the pictures are there. It's like those old novel things back in the day where you'd have 20 illustrations for a novel, and all that was to do was to spark your imagination as you read through all the rest of the stuff.
But yeah,
and so that's all. And my thing about that was trying to do that was to just minimize the amount of drawings so we can get more of these out faster.
Right. But I don't know. I don't want to.
Otherwise, it probably.
I don't want to have to describe what the
well, you don't have
train station looks like.
Well, you
right
don't
there.
because I will draw the train station describing all of that stuff.
Right.
You though interject about the hustle and the bustle and the thing of that, the throng of the crowd, and boom, 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 and things like those type of descriptive things.
Mm-hmm.
That's different. You don't have to describe all that, but there's other things to describe, and not all that whole scene might be written up here. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh yeah. Definitely.
So I think that's where some of the stuff was, is because some of the descriptive things that were happening were being descriptive as if you were describing it for me to draw, instead of it happening to the characters in the story. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, you know, yeah. So like the biggest thing that I can think of is, people gazed up at the train from the street to the city below as it streaked into town to deliver the people, the same people to the city. Many shops and sights. People glanced for a moment as the train passed by, came to a stop in a nearby station located. People crowded the shopping mall. Whereas you might talk about the crowded shopping mall. The mall was crowded with shoppers moving to and fro from shops and attractions. Momentarily being just, I don't even know if they even would they glance up at the train or does it come?
Actually, I'm thinking that first sentence, if we just omit that completely and start with people glanced for a moment as the train passed by and came to a stop at the nearby station. I think that would be better, just to omit that first sentence completely. Boink. So that scene would start. People glanced for a moment as the train passed by and came to a stop in the nearby station.
See, I almost think that
in the nearby station located in the heart of the shopping district. The people crowded the shopping mall, moving from one shop to another, busy enjoying the families and friends accompanying them. Okay, yeah, that sounds better. The radio system at the mall continued playing the broadcast.
I was almost thinking this might be a better
picture
for that.
Yeah, I actually went back and forth with that picture and the other picture that I chose 1,000 times, trying to figure out which one looked better, because I like that picture. The one that's on the screen right there. It's really, really a good picture. I mean, but I also liked the picture of
Hey, where did that go?
I like the picture of her.
I didn't ask you to close.
Maybe I should have just stuck both of them in there like I did with that other part of the story.
Well, we can always. Well, and the other thing too is how we're going to set this up on the page.
Right.
Is we could have the text on the other side of the page. So say this is the back side of a page.
Right.
And then on the other page is the verbiage. And then we can still put the girl with the little insert down there too. I mean, we can always do that. I think we could put maybe up to 3 images on one page if we needed to.
Right.
Not 3 completely full images, but vignettes.
Right. I just thought, I mean, I can't really show them on my computer, but I was thinking maybe of just including that picture right underneath. You know, because that way it shows it from her point of view looking down, and it shows the streets below, and then it also has the president up on the screen. You know, kind of shows everything. Boink, 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 boink. All this editing and fun stuff. But see, like, because there's later in the book, there's also, I actually have 2 pictures for one shot of him getting the award. There's first those guys, you know, cheering for him, and then there's right after that, there's a picture of him getting the award, and then it goes into a picture of him and Beth walking. You know. So yeah. But I really love the style of pictures, especially for a book like this. It looks perfect. So, you know, when somebody reads a book out loud, they call that an audiobook. Right? And so when you have pictures in it and you're reading it and people are looking at it, is that an audio video book?
Probably, yeah.
Because that's kind of what we're doing here.
I think they just called it an emotion graphic novel.
Right.
I think, like I said, there's that place called Made Fire.
And that was another thing, you know, because we talked about, you know, there's that old anime style where they take a picture, which is just a still picture, and they'll just move it, you know? And I often wondered if we might be able to do that with that scene where she kisses him, where we have them standing apart and she just kind of moves closer.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we had somebody who really wanted to,
right, to edit all that shit in,
all that stuff,
right?
Yeah, me and Leland watch on YouTube all the time. We were watching this guy who runs Hot Wheel cars down this track, and he films it from 3 different angles, and so then he edits. He has to go back and edit each race 3 times.
Right.
And it's like dedicated. Well, you know, but there's a reason why he's got so many subscribers and views.
Right.
And,
well, it's funny, you know.
but man, it's like, holy crap, that's a lot of editing.
There's 3 idiots
doing that.
There's 3 idiots that live in Australia. You might know who these guys are. I don't know, but
that's their name, 3 idiots.
It should be. But no, I actually heard about them because they actually traveled to America just to visit Matt on Demolition Ranch.
Oh, no, I haven't heard those guys.
Anyway, these guys they have a channel called How Ridiculous.
How ridiculous.
And their whole thing, you know, because in Australia there's no guns, no fun stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there was this huge tower that was built. And, I mean, it's like, 4 stories tall, maybe even higher. And it's kind of a weird shaped tower because instead of being straight up and down, the tower is built like this. So when you are standing here looking straight down, you can look straight down. And you can drop stuff straight down, and you don't have to worry about it hitting the tower. And so they basically their whole channel is them dropping stuff from the tower onto other things, et cetera, et cetera. And they had all kinds of things that were built for them. They have this giant Hulk fist, which is made out of solid metal that they drop on stuff, and but it's just but I think what really sets their channel apart from just any idiot dropping stuff off of a tower is how many cameras they set up. And plus they have one camera that's always set up to capture it in super slow-mo. So they have all these different cameras. And then one of the things that I think is just absolutely fascinating is they'll actually have this one camera. It's a GoPro on a string, basically. And as they drop the thing, which they have, they usually pull a pin and that drops the heavy object of whatever kind. They'll pull that and they'll drop the camera at the same time, and it'll follow it down until it reaches the end of the string. And so they edit all this stuff out. So when you see that thing drop, it's being filmed 1,000 different ways, and also in super slow-mo and all this kind of stuff. And that's really why their channel does so well, is because they get these awesome shots.
I mean, you can tell that's what makes great channels is editing and
right, because sometimes I wonder, like the Seamus guy from Freedom Tunes, he'll do a little 5-minute cartoon or whatever. I often wonder how long it takes him to do those 5-minute cartoons. Get it all edited and put together.
Well, that's the reason why he does them so simple.
Voiced and everything.
Yeah. Well, the Family Guy, they were doing a whole episode a week.
Right.
But, that was actually, at the beginning, he was doing it all.
Who? The guy that voiced
Keith McFarlane.
Wow.
Like he got the first initial, 10 episodes or like that was greenlit, and he had to do it all himself.
Well, I mean, he does most of the voices.
So, it was... I remember him talking about that when he got it, and he was just like... But he was young and dumb and...
Right.
Never slept, drank lots of coffee type of stuff, and just burned himself to crisp doing it. But
right. But he wasn't the only one. I mean,
look what it is now.
Because Seth Green, did the same thing with Robot Chicken.
Yeah. Did he do that by himself?
Yep. Stop motion animation. And then he did all the voices himself.
That stuff's stop motion is
right.
So slow.
Right.
But his stuff is not as fluid. It's like a
right.
But I mean, you ever watched any of that stuff from those Leica movies? The like Paranorman or Box Trolls or Kubo and the Two Strings.
Right, the ones that are stop motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched the videos of them?
How they
change, moving the character, and then they speed it up, and and you can see how it's all done.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy, and they talk about booking them in to come in and do they had all these different animators, and each one did 5-minute segment or something like that. And they were booked for a week or something like that at a time, and they would come in to do their 5 minutes and or some ridiculous amount of time it took to do such a small amount of work.
Yeah.
Just if they do it at 24 frames a second, that's a lot of frames they gotta shoot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at least we're not doing that.
And that's why when growing up, everybody always said, go do animation. I was like, I can't. I don't have the patience for animation. I love animation, but I can't draw the same thing over and over and over and over and over for a 5-second little clip.
You do it better than I do.
Well,
I can't even draw 2 frames of a comic book and have the characters look the same from one frame to the next.
I mean, I can do that. It's just it's
Right.
and then to know that, you know, when you first start out, I didn't realize either, but they have all these, you know, they draw on the keyframe, and then they have other people fill in the
Right.
other stuff, so you just plugging and chugging.
Mm-hmm.
And those kind of guys that can draw like that are not me.
No.
That can just, like, a friend of mine, his name is Mel Made Dukes, and Mel draw it in Lion King style, draw in this cartoon. He can.
Right.
There's, I can do it if I look at something, but
Mm-hmm.
I can't just whip out this style, whip out that style, do this style. Yeah, if I want something to look good, I always have to go back to my native. This is
Right.
this is the best way I draw. It's like this.
But you, in the old days, you see those guys on camera, you know, and they'll be drawing on a pad of paper, and they'll have like 5 sheets in their hand, separating them and flipping through, and you know, and then you know they could actually take the book and you know do the little flip thing, and you can actually see that moving. That stuff's amazing to me.
Now on the computer, the way they do it is and they just drag the bar at the bottom, so they can just flip through it really quick. Just drag, swoop, 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 swoop. And then they can draw it. And what's cool is they also draw it on the different layers. They have this layer's red, and the next layer's yellow, next layer's blue, green, whatever. And so they can actually see it modulating, and then play it back. If you ever want to watch some fun stuff, go type in Aaron Blaze and watch him animate live on his YouTube channel, and you'll just be like, yeah, I can't do that. And the expression he's just doing on the fly, you know, he's
Right.
studied stuff so much, and it's just, gosh, he's so good.
Yeah.
It,
I still can't. I really, really do want to get an animated logo.
eventually, we'll get enough money.
Because just that Burnout Studios logo would be so cool.
A lot of different things would be fun to have animated. Yeah. I mean, we're gonna need an opening for this too.
Right. Yeah, I thought of a couple different cool openings or cool animations for Liberty. One of which is just a person walking down the street, and as they're walking, they walk past a fence with Liberty written on it, like our logo. And that would be the simple opening, just a person walking.
As he goes out of frame, you hear this. Blood splats on the Liberty, and the little bolt holes all go in the Liberty, and then blood splats.
That's funny. Hell, it could be we could just because at one point you used to have a logo where it said Liberty and it had Jones standing next to it. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh yeah.
It could be a simple animation of Jones walking by and coming to a stop, resting on the thing. Yeah, there he is. So yeah. But anyway, just thoughts, ideas.
I guess I'd have to make that car an EV.
Right. Yeah.
asshole.
Have you ever driven an electric car?
I mean, golf cart, but not car.
I drove a hybrid once. We rented a car and was driving that, and it's weird because the car makes no noise when you turn it on,
Yeah.
and you know, not until you get up to freeway speeds when the actual engine kicks in. Being a hybrid, that's the only time it ever makes any noise. It's weird, but yeah. I'd kind of like to. I haven't ever driven one yet, but I'd kind of like to drive a Tesla.
Yeah.
Mostly just to see how much power it has.
It's supposed to be ludicrous.
Yeah, I've heard that it's got the suck you into your seat power.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the nice thing about electric. It's only one gear.
Right.
That's what rotary engines used to do back in the day.
0 to, oh my God, in 2 seconds.
Pretty much. It's crazy.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what's crazier, the idea of being something electric doing that, or being in a gas car knowing that there's a million tiny explosions going on behind your back as it's thrusting you down the road.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing that I sometimes wonder if the environmental leftists, and I mean leftists, meaning, you know, people that want or demand that this stuff happens. I mean, I sometimes wonder if they don't realize that most conservatives really don't care to like try and save the combustion engine. They're not, they're not railing to, keep these things in production and stuff. The true conservatives out there are all they want is to let the free market decide. If the electric engine becomes a faster, more reliable, option, then the people are going to choose that.
I think the thing comes down to the whole idea of America was, hey, you want to go across the country and visit some people tomorrow? Okay, go do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't have to, you can just go and do it.
Well,
and so
definitely it was, Ford, once he invented the car and people started making roads across the country.
Yeah.
That really did change the way people lived lives.
True. But people always just packed up and left.
Mm-hmm.
And they might not go back. That's the only difference. Now you can go back. With the car, you're able to go back.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the thing that people rail against with electric is the easeability of going on long trips, because that's what America's about. Every year, families go on vacations.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole, it's a week or 2 week vacation.
Right.
And you don't just go a half hour up the road somewhere. It's usually 5,000-6,000 miles. You go to an attraction that's a long ways away, and the idea is sitting at a station for an hour at the beginning, 2 hours to wait for your car to charge up was just ridiculous.
Right, like I said.
And even now, if you really think about it, so it's 15 minutes or 20 minutes for 80%. Well, that's great, but we also know that fast charging degrades your batteries quicker.
Right. Well, I mean, there's 1,000 things you can say that the electric car doesn't do good. One of which is, the components and stuff of making the battery are harder to find, and
well, the amount of fossil fuel it takes
and then
to
build it
battery,
right,
and then build it. So, like, I think there's one time there, they got the minerals in one country, had to ship them to another country, have them made, shipped back to another country to have it installed in the vehicle, shipped again to the other country to have it sold,
Right.
And they said that that was the same amount of the average use of a combustion engine of 10 years for just one battery.
Right.
So, what are you really saving?
Right.
The impact on the ozone, I guess, global warming, supposedly, because that's, from the gases from it. But
Right. So
I still don't know what, are batteries recyclable? And the price of replacing the batteries, too.
that's questionable. I don't know how perfectly recyclable they are, because there's definitely toxic waste involved there.
Right. I know the different types of batteries,
Mm-hmm.
I remember our forklift batteries, we always had to have open area around our forklifts because of the battery acid.
Mm-hmm.
The gases that came off of it were
Right.
toxic, but
Right.
I know the nickel hydride battery that they have in those are different, but
Right. And then everything now, it seems to be lithium.
lithium, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's toxic waste for sure. So yeah, but like I said, if they
Well, that's
keep
the beautifulness of science fiction, because science fiction is supposed to answer all this stuff, right? Or just look into the future and say, hey, what if? I mean, you look at something like Johnny Mnemonic, and
great movie,
that great little flick, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like everybody's living in this utopia, but when you look, when the lights come on,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh crap, all this discarded electronics and
Right.
that you can't get rid of, and
Notice how in the story that I included homeless people, because I don't think that's going to go away, even
Mm-hmm.
when we get to that utopia.
yeah.
So
Well, that's mental illness. Some of that has a lot of mental
Right.
illness factors, but they will keep them outside the city.
yeah, living under overpasses. and all
Let the
that
bears have them,
right.
and the cougars.
Right. And all the other animals that have taken over their environment.
Reclaim their environments.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's as much as we're talking about all these characters, and since Liberty is the main character, it's like, I think really defining her as the character
Mm-hmm.
is very important. Like, what is the political climate like? So that kid's late to school, right, and running in the quad or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Is it acceptable to be late to school?
That's what I was. I mean.
So in the site, is it acceptable to be late to school?
Technically, his parents are paying for it.
But in the society, is he acceptable to be late to school? Then, if not, then he would never be late for. You know what I mean? Then,
Right.
and then the other thing is like, what was the other? I can't think of it off the top of my head, but there's just like, just little things here and there that. Oh, or is it the woke of, man, come when you want to come? Kind of like that movie Real Genius. Remember at the end
Right.
of school system, everybody, all the seats in that classroom just had little microphone recorders recording the teacher, and the teacher actually had a tape up there of him giving the lecture. So he wasn't even showing up either. It was classic.
Right.
But so like that, it's like, which way is the society? Is it so liberal that you can do whatever you want,
No.
that it's so carefree, but there's this underpin of just don't do that type of stuff?
Because I think, personally, that one of the things that you'll never get rid of is jealousy. And I think that, when people are told to be on time somewhere and somebody shows up late, everybody's angry because they don't, if that guy doesn't get in trouble, then they get angry because, when they were late, they got in trouble. Why didn't that guy get in trouble, type of thing. So, everybody wants this sense of fairness that the rules apply to everybody.
Well, because you can see both ways of going, because,
right.
Yeah, the school's free, so yeah, I might come today, might come tomorrow.
It kind of reminds me what you're talking about, like in that old Jane Fonda movie Barbarella. They created it to where the society then in the future was a society of free love, where everybody, having sex was just like a handshake, Oh, hey, how you doing? Here, can I stick this in? Oh, okay, great.
Right. But what's I think is it Fahrenheit? Yeah, is it Fahrenheit 451, or is it Logan's Run? I can't remember which one. He comes home and he's cycling through the people. It's kind of like Tinder. They're showing where you can see the people, and then it's like, oh. And so then you just say you want to have sex with that person, and if they go for it, then they just show up, type thing. I can't remember. I think it's that one.
I don't remember which movie that would be.
Yeah, it's one of those two. I think it's one of them. So I remember the guy's like, "Oh, sorry, I made a mistake," but but it's that free thing too. It's like almost like you're a bigot if you turn it down,
right?
And that's what our system is going to get to here soon.
Well, yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, because, they need to widen out the dating. But it's not fair. But, yeah, so I think that almost is needs to be solely identified so that then we can play
right
within the city.
I see what you're saying. I mean, we're basically talking about painting a better picture of how the city is socially, physically, etc., and versus concentrating on one character. I kind of like that.
Well, there's the quote unquote hippie thing of everybody do what they want to do.
Right.
It's all good. That's what utopia is supposed to be.
Right.
Right. And then there's the.
But this is a leftist utopia.
Right, but then there's the utopia of. It's almost like in Christians a lot of times, they have this idea of, if you don't do anything wrong, you'll never get in trouble.
Right.
Right. So you'll never have to worry about the police because the police aren't going to come to your home because you didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
And so is that the same type of society that we have here? The only difference is you're compelled to do everything right because the consequences are not picking up trash along the street. It's not, 30 days in the jail joint. Right. It's not a misdemeanor. It's not community service. It's swift. It's hard. It's
right.
That's the dystopian part of it. But for the most part, most people that walk around are in blissful ignorance. All those people at the shops and the stores who are just going about their business. You could have, like I said, there don't need to be a fence out there. Why? Because the penalty of crossing into somewhere where you're not supposed to go, or something, is more than you're willing to pay. There's no, there won't be no shoplifting if there is.
Well, there's still homeless people. There's still homeless people, and yeah, I'm sure that there's still theft and shoplifting, and I think that fence would mostly would be just to keep out homeless people. Although I don't know why anybody would want to sleep underneath a giant fan.
Well, one of the things you talked about, you talked about him sitting out there trying to listen.
Right.
You wouldn't be able to hear anything because of the fans.
Right.
But because of the windmills. But
well, I can add that. That's
how
all
would
he
somebody
hears.
steal anything? Because there'd be CCC cameras everywhere, or CCV cameras, whatever.
Yeah.
There'd be cameras. It was like, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas right now you have this dystopian thing of San Francisco of, oh, you can steal whatever you want because everything's free. It's all the city. It's all the state.
Right.
You know, you can just go and take what you want.
Well, that was another thing that I
You
was
have your credit. You can just go in and get it and go.
speaking of. Stuff that exists right now, but I thought it would be kind of cool to include, with Brzezinski. I was thinking, of that drone that is that spots him. I was thinking about what if those federal cops, the help guys, what if they were each had their own drone that was just programmed to follow them around? That'd be cool.
Their body camera.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, you know how useful that would be to soldiers on a battlefield?
Yeah. except for telling people where you're at.
Right.
But yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. Anyway, just a thought. That was a complete tangent there.
Right.
But
because I think all that type of stuff really paints the picture of what we're trying to explain. Because the whole idea of this is trying to, like we said that one podcast a couple weeks ago. I was talking about. There's that left turn at Albuquerque that might happen
right.
when we're trying to get to Star Trek.
Mm.
And we think that's where we're going,
Mm-hmm.
but oops, we wound up
Right.
in the gulags.
Right.
And I don't know. What was that left turn, and what was the outcome here?
Mm-hmm.
And so, is it a society like, because like Demolition Man, those people are living in blissful ignorance. They think they're free. They're going about their lives,
Clicking off credits.
happy, clicking off credits.
Mm-hmm.
They live in beautiful
Apartments,
domiciles.
Right.
They weren't apartments. They're domiciles, right? And they're all this stuff. They have nice clothes that they wear. Everything was just happy-go-lucky.
Right. And they have
Except-
virtual sex whenever they want.
Yeah. They just don't have
Physical contact.
freedom to choose
Mm-hmm.
when and how. And other stuff like with the people underground we're doing. Yeah, I could see that like this, where it's just blissful ignorance,
Mm-hmm.
blissful happiness.
Well, I think Demolition Man is more where my head's at than any other leftist future thing.
Right. So
Because
then,
it'd
you
be-
have that. You have the local police, whatever. If you just go around and they're probably doing what that police department's more doing than do anything. Remember in Hot
community
Fuzz?
service.
Yeah, Hot Fuzz. How they're
Mhm.
tracking down the swan,
Right.
the missing swan.
Yes. I
Yes.
remember that.
Right, and so it's like that's what the police force does, because in Utopia you can't have crime.
Right.
Uh,
Right. And anything too harsh, help is really, they're almost like the police force in AI.
well, they're the agents in the Matrix.
What's the
Hello,
yeah,
Mr. McDonald.
right? But
Mr. Anderson.
what's
You hear that sound?
what the Tom
That's
Cruise
the
one
sound.
wasn't that a
Minority Report.
Minority Report? That's it.
Yeah,
They're like they're
pre-crime.
because they literally stopped him. Yes, he was obviously wanting to get inside, but they stopped him before.
Uh-huh.
And they were watching him before, so they knew that,
Well, their whole thing was pre-crime.
Mm-hmm.
We, you know, but
But yeah, these guys. That's what my thought was on these help guys, because one of the things that I know would exist in the future is red flag laws.
oh yeah, well, that's just yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it would have to be, you know,
And because you have a device in your pocket, that this records everything you do.
mhm.
So I mean, they could easily, if somebody was to red flag you and say, that you were acting suspicious or whatever, they could just go through every record.
Well, they
Check your
already
social
want-
score.
they already
Check your
want
social
Apple
score.
to turn over that information.
Right. Check your social score. Check your carbon footprint. See, if you're doing anything wrong.
Well, those things would be so locked down in that society, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And then they would just have to punch in your location because you're carrying a phone or whatever. And then I haven't gone so far into this dystopian future to say that people are chipped, but because I'm of the opinion that nobody would volunteer. I mean, it'd be a lot of social engineering to get somebody to volunteer
we're
to
all
chip.
chipped.
But we're chipped because we have a phone.
Right, but if you could get chipped and have Google glasses
Right.
in your
but
regular eyesight,
I'm just saying, I don't think anybody's going to have that to where they tap their head and can have a phone conversation because it's built in.
I think people would do it in a heartbeat.
You think? Well,
I think like in that movie, in that show, Black Mirror, again, one of the episodes is a guy looking back over his past memories because his eye is bionic and it recorded everything he's seen.
right.
And I do believe that people would do something like that so they could record, they could bring up a screen out in front of themselves, they could use a virtual keyboard in front of them, they could there are people right now who are so excited for that type of technology.
I don't know.
It's
Yeah.
there's people that said there's no way I'd ever carry one of these. There's no way I'd ever do that thing. Answering a phone call on your watch
Mm-hmm.
is very handy.
Right.
That's what I did the other day when you called.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to sit here and do stuff because I was doing, and then I was able to still talk. It was like, wow, that's a lot handier than I thought it would be. And I could see people just be like, I'm the future.
Right.
You know what I mean? Oh gosh. And besides, remember, it's all about evolution. You're evolving. Remember, you have to push the evolution narrative.
Right.
And so that's how humans are evolving through technology. They don't evolve so much physically, but they evolve technological.
Right.
That's where our evolution comes from, quote unquote. I mean, okay, but
Yep.
so I think and remember, you're talking about after a period of time, right? Remember, so you got rid of all those people who said no to it. You got rid of all the dissonance, or they went to the gulag and they were in there for a month and said, "I'll take it right there. I'll take it right here, right here."
Right.
Right? That's like in 1984, right? The guy goes back and he always wondered why that guy just sat in that bar, drank vodka every day, or drank the paint thinner, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the movie, where is he at? In the bar, drinking the stuff, right with him, just realizing that either play by the rules or die.
Right.
And so, and because they don't play fair, remember, all that stuff is how it's going to change your life. The reason why Google Glasses never took off is because most people hate wearing glasses. I hate wearing glasses. I hate the fact that even though I can see clear, there's a shade difference over everything. There's a film difference over everything. Like, colors aren't as vibrant as when I have my glasses on. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. And there's nothing, I can feel that there's separation. There's something in between there.
Right.
And I hate wearing them. But I see clear, and so.
How do you feel about contacts?
I thought about it, but
I've never worn contacts.
my brother swears by them. He loves them, but sticking your finger in the eye, every day, and they're expensive.
But yeah,
so I think people would just be all in for it.
Yeah. But I think, the stories overall when we're doing them, because that's the great thing is, I mean, the more of them we make, the clearer the picture of the town becomes, you know.
Right.
Because I'm hoping that people just don't watch and hear one story, that they binge them all. I mean, depending on how fast we can crank these out.
Yeah. Well, that's so the more drawings we have, the longer it's going to take. That's why.
Yeah. But you're a lot quicker at these.
Sometimes. Yeah, I can be.
I mean, it's not like Shattered Time where it's photorealistic.
Yeah, I draw that. I'm much more comfortable with that style.
Right.
Because cartoons, to me, aren't as easy to replicate. Different looks, like different facial positions. I draw them one direction really cool. It's getting them to scream, yell,
right,
look sad, look happy, and keep them all looking the same is harder for me in cartoon format. But should be easy. But
yeah, but I mean, like that one scene where they're all slapping them on the back and doing the high fives and stuff.
I hate that picture.
Why do you hate that picture?
I think it's one of my worst.
Well, I like it because, I mean, the great thing you can do with the cartoony style is, you can exaggerate people's faces.
Well, I know I could do that, but I mean,
look,
I just don't think it's drawn very well.
And like that guy back there with the big ass mouth, but you can.
Yeah.
I mean, the emotions of that, it's just great. Very cool.
But see, getting John to look like John with this look on his face wasn't as easy to replicate. This there. John.
Right.
To that John.
Yeah.
Was a little bit tougher for me.
You did it though. And you're right. He does look like Tim Pool. Without the beanie.
I haven't thought about going back putting the beanie on the damn kid. Hell, I was talking about we should send it to him and say, hey, let's make some books.
Yeah, I don't know how happy he'd be dying in the end.
For liberty.
Because Tim just wants to live in peace on a chicken farm,
down by the river in his van. Oh man!
Actually, it's the way they describe his house in the place he works. There's a skate park and all kinds of stuff. I mean, wow.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I'm gonna show you this. This guy was building a desk you can see the type of stuff I watch.
Wow. Is that for work or is that like a kitchen?
That's his new office desk that he's gonna have.
That's pretty big.
Oh, what the heck?
That's cute.
What happened? Mr. Whiskers? Oh, jeez. All I wanted to do is advance it forward a little bit. Ooh.
Shiny.
That is nice. I like this lip he put up here. That's nice. For monitors to sit on and things. He even got hole cut here for something.
Right. Power cords.
Power cords, probably, yeah. I mean, he does a lot of unboxing computer and reviews and things like that, so he's gonna shoot videos. But oh man, I saw that and was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I think I could do something like that.
Yep.
That's just, yeah, that's cool. And then have like a multi-camera setup type thing, so that like if you sat over on one side here and I sat over on the other side type or whatever, and then but I was gonna draw or something, I could turn to a different camera and turn that one on, and you could still do your thing there, but then just talking we could turn and face each other, and that'd be so cool. I mean, something like that too. Can you imagine if you know crazy things that could ever happen, say something like Shattered Time or something like this, we got funding to go do, and then we had a home or something, and we built something like this in the basement where you work on one side, I was working on the other side.
Well, yeah, but
type thing.
In my dream is to have 2 desks where we're facing each other still, because I don't know if I like just staring into a camera. It just doesn't feel natural.
Yeah. Well, I don't ever look at the camera. I usually just look over towards
right.
you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know of anybody that actually. Well, no, there's a few guys that, when they do interviews, the interviews are usually over a camera system. It's not in person. Like Anthony Brian Logan, name drop a few people. The Hodge twins, even though they sit next to each other, and when they do an interview, it's usually not in person.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it just doesn't feel natural. Oh, did you know that? Do you know who Lunkers is? Lunkers TV? Well, he's a guy he was a sniper, special forces sniper in Afghanistan and stuff. And when he came back and to do a YouTube channel, because had a lot of friends that were doing it, I guess, he started doing mostly fishing videos, just him going out fishing, and he became really popular really quickly. And he actually started doing stuff with Matt from Demolition Ranch, and they got together, and they're the ones they created Bunker Branding together. So that Bunker Branding was both of their ideas, and but he just recently started I'm trying to remember the name of the new show, but he decided to go all out and do a kind of a news type of show like Tim Pool does, where he just talks about stuff. And I mean, most of the stuff that he's talking about now is, he's convinced that we're going to war with China.
We're going to war with China.
So,
well, it might be the distraction that's needed. to keep us from realizing the social shift here in the country.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, oh, we'll come out of the war as a fully formalized socialistic country because we will have had to do so many things to fortify the country, to come together, to stay together, and so we will have gone completely socialist.
Right.
And it's a way to do that and cover it all up at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
What they have to hope doesn't happen is half the country says, no, we're not going to war. But we have to. Nope. But California's in trouble. Don't care. They didn't care about us.
Right.
Sorry, people in California. Sorry.
Right.
I talked with you way back in the day about the idea that, you know, China was never an expansionist country, but if they ever did decide to expand, watch out if they start building aircraft carriers and submarines, which they finally started doing. Now, you know,
right.
If they can get up to 10 aircraft carriers, they're going to start doing some stuff.
Don't you hate it when you say these things and then they come true? And
It was like
shit.
10 years ago, right?
Right.
10, 15 years ago I was telling this stuff. And the other thing was so they bought up everything. They bought off all our land, all this debt, to the point where they say, we want to collect. And instead of paying them, it would almost be easier to say, here's everything west of the Rockies.
Right.
You know, because we know the East doesn't care about that, you know, and that'd just be a beautiful chunk of land, you know. Here you go. Boom.
Yeah.
I mean, and right now, I mean, you look at California, they're burning it all up, so what's left of it? Still have the heartland, but there's nobody to work the fields.
Right.
You know, they can't get any. So, might as well just give it to China, pay off her debt. You know, but
Right.
it's like literally, you know, oh, we have to rally to go to war, and then could you imagine? So in the '60s, we had a bunch of hippies in Berkeley and these college campuses say no, and then they fled to Canada, so they didn't have to go to war in Vietnam.
Right.
You have a bunch of conservative right that just got handed to them the boot of the government. I mean, literally, just like, and they said, hey, we didn't think this happened right. Shut up. Sit down. You know, who cares? And then you say, we got to go to war to save ourselves. No.
Right.
But, no. You know, I mean, that's fascinating. That's an interesting concept of, yeah, we're just gonna split the country in half again, and you can go fight your war with China. We don't care. But they'll come after you. No, they won't. Sure, they will. No, because we know how to fight and you don't.
Right.
So you go fight your little war with China, and we'll sit over here and be happy.
Yeah. I recently asked this on a Facebook post. Can Americans? This is going to get us canceled right here. Can Americans sue the CDC?
The CDC?
Yeah, Center for Disease Control. Because Anthony Fauci is the head of the CDC, and the CDC was funding research to the Wuhan lab where they were doing gain-of-function research, even though they were promised that they weren't doing gain-of-function research. But they did it, and more than likely, most likely, almost 100% likely, they created this virus. And people can easily show how that this has affected their lives, because we closed down the economy, the world economy, not just America, the world closed down on the suggestion from the CDC that they do such a thing. It was the CDC that, had been leading this whole damn thing. And so we did. People lost businesses, people lost livelihood, people lost lives. So, it's not like where you can just, sue. You actually can show damages. Can they sue the CDC for those damages that they suffered? Because,
I don't think you can sue them civilly. The only thing you could do is indict them. But you have
you
to have
mean a criminal charge?
Yeah, you have to. Then you need a DOJ that will actually.
Right. Well, that's just it.
and right now they won't.
Fauci and Rand Paul went at each other. Everybody's seen those videos.
Rand told them, "You should be in jail."
Well, Rand said, that you're lying, that you didn't fund gain of function research. And it's funny. Rogan actually talked about this. If you look at the regular newspapers, the mainstream newspapers, they print it as saying, Fauci tells Rand Paul, off, and wins this, argument that they're having. And then you look at the right wing news sources, and it was the exact opposite. Rand Paul, shows Fauci to be the liar that he is. And it's like, you just kind of shake your head, and but in my mind, Fauci is lying, did lie, and it has been proved, and there has to be some kind of repercussions, and it's either going to be a lawsuit or Fauci goes to jail, but none of it's going to happen.
No, because you have to prove that he did it with malicious intent or with. And that's the problem.
If he gave money to fund gain of function research when they were told specifically, no gain of function research.
Well, I think that's a Geneva thing. That's one of those things, But it's still allowed. That's the beautiful bureaucracy, right? There's still ways to get around it.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is, and this is where I think Rand and these people aren't pushing, is like, you should be in jail, right? Well, the difference is if this was used as a biological weapon, then you purposely funded the making of the weapon to a
possible enemy. Correct.
That makes him on par with Benedict Arnold.
It's called treason.
If even higher.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's what you have to prove. And once again, you have to do that with the DOJ. And yeah, the DOJ is going after people who walked around with a little flag on January 6th and called them terrorists. I think like what Tim said, or was it? No, it was Crowder talked about that. He goes, when people usually do an insurrection, they bring guns, they bring armament, they're going to take something, hold something. Nobody had a gun.
Right.
The only people that had a gun that day, were the government.
Yeah.
So how is it?
He's right, and the only person that got shot was a civilian.
Right. So it's like, yeah, and so the DOJ, all three branches they've capitulated to. Well, the other two have capitulated to the president, and if ever we were sitting close to a dictatorship, it's now.
Right. But
and that's why I could see a war with China being.
For all those people out there that lost their business, their livelihood.
Well, that's just like
they should be able to sue.
Well, what about the people that died from the vaccine? They don't get to do anything
Right.
because they said,
Well, actually, yeah, I actually know there's a guest that comes into the restaurant every day, and he got the jab, the vaccine, and he had a reaction. He had a stroke type of thing, where half of his body doesn't work now. And so yeah, but anyway, but
can't do nothing.
but
Oh, look,
regardless,
they stopped. No, just kidding.
regardless of the vaccine,
I don't think they're going to cancel us over our 6 viewers.
but yeah, regardless of the vaccine, in a lawsuit, you have to show damages, and these people definitely have damages.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
but you have to show damage. You have
they
to
lost years of work.
and you also have to show cover up, malicious. Like you have to be able to prove that they knowingly knew that something was going to happen and then covered it up.
Right.
And
But with a lawsuit, it's just a preponderance of the evidence. It's not a beyond a reasonable doubt.
well, that's why in civil law you can get away with, somebody can be guilty, whereas in
Right.
criminal law they can't. But I still think you have to have those other things, and just by saying, look, we got sick. Well, yeah, some people get sick. We never said it wasn't we never said nothing might happen. So I don't know.
No, this has nothing to do with the vaccine. I'm just talking.
Well, not
about
the vaccine, even with the other thing,
I'm just,
because we know that gang of function is outlawed, but in certain instances, supposedly it's allowed.
right.
And that's
But he funded this, and he's the one. We shut down the country on his word.
right. I think the only way you could get him
The
is you have
CDC
to
said,
prove.
Hey, we should shut down, and everybody on the planet went okay.
Yeah.
Which I did. I still, I still shake my head on
I
that.
still think you have to prove that he was working with them to make it happen, to do them.
Right. But I mean, because
But you're right. He should be.
but I mean, just like if somebody has an accident in a car, smashes into you, you can show that the damages were caused by, because these people can show that the damages were caused by Fauci.
Right.
It was his suggestion that they closed the doors for 2 weeks, which turned into a fucking year.
Right.
I mean, I don't.
Well, I think it's kind of close to the brakes malfunction on a car, killing a family.
Mhm.
But did the auto manufacturer know of a
Right.
known failure within the brakes?
And then you sue the car manufacturer and the brake manufacturer.
But you have to have proof.
Right.
That's the toughest part.
I don't know. I think the proof exists on this case.
Well, there's a lot of links, and there's a lot of links with the election stuff, and everybody just put the fingers in the ears and
Because I mean, if the American people have to sue everyone, including President Trump, because he was the one that went along with all this, I mean, I think that it should happen.
yeah, that's true. In fact, I mean, for as great as Trump was, he did a lot of, I even say it about Obama. I don't understand how Obama, how he did not march the National Guard in the South, Chicago,
Well,
and put him on every street corner for a year or two, and just said, crime's not happening in the open anymore here. These streets are going to be safe. There's a generation that's going to grow up who don't know what it means to walk to school with gunshots. If you want to do stuff, you better do it behind closed doors, because if we see you out in the streets, we're arresting you.
no,
But no,
the government never.
I know he technically didn't have the say so to do that, but he could have harped on it until it got done,
Right.
or something. I mean, I don't know. Same thing with Trump. There's so many missteps he did with that stuff that
Right.
it's like,
But I think Chicago and all these other war zones
how
that
did he not just put people's feet to the fire and just say,
Right.
especially that last year, I don't understand. Well, he had Glenn Beck, on Tim's show, he always talks about Ted Cruz bringing the tech giants before him and rails on him, and then nothing ever happens.
Right.
Well, Beck had Cruz on his show, and he look, you get him on your show, you point out everything that's wrong, and then you don't do anything about it. And he says, I can't. I'm not in that part of the government. I have jurisdiction to bring them before me to ask some questions on certain things. So I get it to bring light to it. Then I need people in that branch of the government over there to then go after them.
Right.
And I can only do so much.
Right.
So we have this feckless party that just
Oh yeah.
doesn't want to do anything.
That's just it. I mean,
We need a new party.
with my question of can Americans sue? My answer to myself is yes.
It should be able
I
to.
believe that people could easily bring a lawsuit against the CDC, but the problem is one of the problems is the old saying is you can't sue the government if the government doesn't want.
Oh yeah, I mean,
So
so he, just like with Bernie Madoff, he would be on trial tomorrow if it meant somebody else's job. But until that happens, until you can find the link to others, then
But yeah, I just think because to criminally charge Anthony Fauci with anything is one thing, and it would be really hard because he has power. To criminally charge him would be hard, but I think civilly charging him with something, suing him is something that any Joe Schmo could bring.
well, yeah, but
But you'd have to have a lawyer that's
Right.
willing to do it.
you have to have a lawyer, which I think there are. But the biggest thing is once again, it's just like with the new vaccines. They write in these caveats for some of these positions, for some of these roles of, so the president sends troops over to a country, your kid dies. Can you sue the president for sending your kid?
Good
No.
question.
No, we've written that into the thing. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
they would. Oh my gosh, the amount of lawsuits.
Oh. Speaking.
So-
Sorry, just a tangent here. Speaking of lawsuits and all this kind of stuff, have you watched that Netflix movie that Michael Keaton did called Worth?
Oh no, I just seen the.
If you
preview for
want
it.
a movie that's amazing,
Yeah.
true story. I love the true stories, but God, we were talking about the Val thing, and you were saying how sad that is.
Mm-hmm.
Watch that. If you don't find yourself crying 5 minutes into it, there's something wrong with you.
trying to put a dollar value on the people that were jumping out of the World Trade Center.
No, all of the people that died.
Well, I know all, but I mean,
Right.
just as that one person. Just think of that. You don't think of all the other ones just kind of died at one time, but those people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a
So I think in positions like that at the CDC, at this and that, they're built into that you can't go after them for things like that. But
God, I
what we
hope not.
can do is we're supposed to be able to look at it and go, oh, but you did collude traitorously to give another country a weapon against us.
right.
Did you do that? And then cover up for them?
Right.
work with them in making it harder for us to get PPEs to protect ourselves. To there's several things that they should be able to go after them for, but
Right.
once again, you gotta have to have a DOJ that's
Right.
honest.
But yeah, that's why I'm thinking that
Those are the guys just going to show up to our house and say, "Hey, you said something weird on a podcast. You said something wrong on a podcast.
right.
You looked over the fence at the wrong building. I mean,
Right.
they get away with doing that. Look at Cuomo. How's Cuomo not arrested for putting all those COVID people into resting homes? We said right off the bat, we did all this to say grandma and grandpa,
Right.
and then he puts COVID patients in with grandma and grandpa.
Right.
How is he not? No, he has to be on sexual harassment charges, not
Right.
COVID.
Right. But yeah, they
Which I think again is because
I think it will be easier to bring civil lawsuits versus criminal charges. But yeah, I don't know. I mean,
but all those people have their money.
you see these big, like Zantac, was sued because the possible side effects, blah blah blah, and you get email alerts, have you been taking Zantac? You could be awarded X amount of dollars if just call this number and blah 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 blah, and it's like, I want to see a lawsuit where you get an email or a commercial that says, were you affected by COVID? Did you have to close your business, or did you have to, blah, blah, blah? Did you lose your job? Did you blah, 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 blah? You could be, awarded for,
Yeah, but see, and it's where they get you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gosh, it's how they get you. Because all you'll do with the lawsuits is who's going to pay for it.
Right.
And then you're just hurting the rest of the taxpayers to pay out the lawsuits. I mean, it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh.
Right.
I mean, the only thing that could maybe come good out of it is if you strip everything away from the people, but, make them work McDonald's for the rest of their lives. But but these people have their money out in tax shelters. I mean, that was a great thing about the Met Gala thing with AOC with her tax the rich dress. It's like, oh my gosh.
Right.
Had some $20 an hour person hold her dress out as the plebe that he is. And then she has tax the rich on. I mean, $35,000 a plate.
Mm-hmm.
And then and it's funny how they show pictures side by side of people at the Met Gala and then people from the Hunger Games, from Capital City.
Right.
You can't tell the difference.
No.
of which is which. And it's like, this is the start of it. This is how it starts.
Right.
We're better than you. We're supposed to be protected.
That's like I said, that's when I write liberty, that's the kind of stuff that I have in my mind is,
Well, see, that to me, that's what the coal plant is all about.
Mm-hmm.
The coal plant isn't about so much like I think most people with solar on their homes and stuff can get majority of their day-to-day use out of it. I mean, like your solar car in town, you're going to be able to do most everything you ever want to do.
Right.
So, yeah, could we switch over and get a lot done? Probably. But the coal thing comes from, it's that government suck of needing it, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Of the private club, Studio 54, where they all go to, all the pyro, all the not pyro, but all the lasers, lasers suck tons of juice, the holograms, all this stuff displayed, you know, and they're in there clubbing and having fun, and the amount of power
Right.
that
But could you imagine
100, 10, 15 clubs in the city would have to be drawing. You wouldn't be able to do it on electric power.
Right.
So you'd have to have something. But see, it's to go to service the elite. Just like the idea of that massive, instead of a billboard, I think that sign, Liberty sign, has to be a holographic sign.
Right. Something.
And jet or lasers constantly going, and the amount of power. But you're prideful because of the technological advance that you were able to make it. You know, look at us. Look at how far we've come. It's a technological marvel. Who cares if it,
Well,
it has a dirty secret behind it?
You're right, but I mean, just imagine that. There's a rolling blackout where they lose power for 2-3 days. Now all those rich elites are on the exact same level as all the people that are living in the streets, practically.
They got special backups.
And then some riots and stuff break out, and then suddenly these peasants are in their backyard, searching for food.
Well, that'd be interesting. Have a rolling blackout, but they're all in the club,
Right.
partying, right? So everybody else has rolling blackouts, but they're too important to have. They got to keep communications for emails and for this. They got to keep working, so they get priority. So they get whatever little bit of energy is left.
Right. But all those lower and middle class people, they'll come towards the light like a moth.
Wow.
So, yeah.
You do, but,
So I'm sure that's what happened in that regard. Why they needed to find a better source of power. So,
yeah.
Because all you need is, your rich friends screaming to their politicians' buddies, get some power so that we never have to see them again.
We should have ways to be able to block off our section of the cities.
Too. Kind of like the whole New York Manhattan Island.
Almost, kind of like, did you see, what's the one, the Justin Timberlake movie about time where everybody now can live forever.
Oh.
But you get paid in time.
Right.
And so he had to go through 7 checkpoint layers to get to the inner city where it's a utopia in there, right? That's
right.
Where everything is amazing, but guards check, walls could shoot up out of nowhere, and all this type of stuff, and to protect the wealthy and the elites.
Right.
Because even though it's a utopia, there's still got to be that power level. That's what's great about 1984 is, you think, oh, everybody lives in this crap hole, and then he gets brought to that inspectors or that whatever his home, and it's nice, but it's not. It's still sparse.
Right.
It's still hard angled. It's still drab. There's a little bit. He gets a little bit of color. He gets the wine. He gets a little bit of stuff. So you can only imagine what his boss's place must be like.
Right.
And then what his boss's place must be like.
Yeah.
And if you wonder who's going to get all those jobs, they're all related.
That's for sure.
Right? I mean, yeah, they're going to make sure that their whole family is working.
Right.
And a few friends of the family and their families, all interconnected. We'll go right back to the old aristocracies of the Middle Ages of marrying off families to keep power, and
Right.
we see that right now in the tech industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the media
Yep.
industry.
It always cracks me up when you go to work for a company and they, in their, employee handbook talks about, that they don't want to, hiring families and all that kind of stuff. What's that called again? Anyway.
Nepotism.
They, and they rail against nepotism in the handbook. And then you look at the CEO and the CFO and the COO and all those guys with the abbreviated titles there, and they're related.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or
and
this congressman,
right,
and is related to that senior producer at a TV station,
and his daughter married this guy's daughter, and,
right, or the producer over at that station, and and yeah, it's yeah,
it's like, okay, I get it. Good thing you don't have you have that anti-nepotism policy. It's really working out for you.
Yeah, it's good that fascism isn't alive and well within the left, and that's what's fascinating. Is they really have this warped reality of what fascism. But like what Tim was saying on his show the other day, he's like, and you said it earlier. These people look at these people and say one thing. Those people look and they say the exact same thing back. You can never find a middle ground with that. You're never going to find a middle ground.
Right.
There's, and they think that middle ground.
Both. Everybody heard the argument between Anthony Fauci and Rand Paul, but everybody's mind interpreted it differently. It's like, Rand Paul won that argument. Oh no, Anthony Fauci made him look like an idiot.
Well, that's because you only heard it from. Where did you hear it from? Did you hear the whole argument from one place?
Right.
Or did you hear a snippet from a right wing place that only made Rand Paul look superior?
Right.
Or did you hear it from only a left wing that only made Fauci look smart? Or did you listen to the whole thing and you heard both of them saying, you're like, well, I get what both of you kind of saying, but in this instance, I think he's right. Because, last thing they want you to do is make up your own mind.
Right.
But I think that divide, I think they thought that was COVID was going to bring the people together, and that hasn't done it. So I think it's China. I think they think China's going to do it. I think we're getting almost to a point where people are going to be like, F you, we're moving. We're packing up our bags, and we're all, can we come over there? It's like almost like, I wonder if there could be like a national house swapping.
Yeah, I don't know.
I want to move to here. You want to move here. Your place is about comparable to mine. Flip,
Right.
Because I was on Zillow. I was looking at property in Alabama. I can't. I grew up never thinking the idea of living in Utah was ever a possibility, and then the idea of going to the South, that's just nuts. But
I'm laughing because I grew up in the South.
Oklahoma,
right?
But that's about as north as you can get in the South, right?
Well, yeah. I grew up in parts of Texas and Louisiana too.
Louisiana. Okay, so, but I was just looking at. The amount of property that we could actually buy in Alabama. We could actually have.
Oh yeah.
A property.
Mm-hmm.
We could actually have.
Right.
Like an okay sized house, but on a beautiful half acre of land with some grass and some trees and
not here in Utah, that's for sure.
No, not now. This is getting ridiculous here.
Yeah,
it's the housing market's stupid. But what's interesting is people have reached their cap of what they're willing to pay.
Right.
And I've been on Zillow lately seeing that people are having to reduce their house by $50,000, $20,000, 25. It's just people finally said, yeah, no.
Right.
And then the investors are backing out,
right,
are buying those properties now.
Right.
So something wicked is coming this way, and it's not a good thing. That's why I hope we can get this up and going before any of that happens, because
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, I think
'cause I really
we have good product.
I really don't know where Utah would stand. I think they'd give over.
Well, I'm proud of Utah in some ways because when Biden came out with his jab mandate,
Mm-hmm.
Utah is one of the states that said no.
Which is surprising because we have a very liberal governor right now.
Because I remember I was on Facebook and people were talking about mandates for vaccines, and people were either supporting it or not supporting it. And I look at it from this point of view. What I told them is, right now, in the service industries, meaning restaurants and other service industries like any hospitality type stuff, they're having a real difficult time hiring people.
Mm-hmm. Everybody is.
And those industries, if they had to not only try and find people, but also, force them to get a vaccine, that just makes it even more difficult to find employees. It's just sometimes I feel like there's this concerted effort to destroy as many small businesses as they can.
I feel that way, and at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I struggle with this idea of how much of it's malicious, and then how much of it's malicious on our part of just being, like you said, dumb and stupid. Like just the dumb and stupid of going along with everything, and then the dumb and stupid of being like, well, I'll just buy everything from Amazon. Screw my local store. And then all the stores and mom and pops go away, and then you look around and go, oh, those evil Amazon did it.
Right.
Well,
right.
They only did it because,
just like the Walmart thing on a bigger scale.
Right. Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's like,
right.
It's a double-edged sword.
Because I was talking to a lady at work, Mindy. She's a really nice older lady that works there. Only one day a week. She has another job. But we were talking about the fact that we're having trouble finding people, and she says, well, where everybody's working. I'm like, where? Amazon? And she's like, no, because there's a big Amazon place here in Utah. But anyway, she said no. A lot of people that she knows, and it's funny because a lot of people that I know are driving, either doing Uber Eats or DoorDash, but not just those. They'll deliver for Walmart groceries, and they'll also deliver packages from other places.
Right.
And she said that a friend of hers was a teacher, and she started driving, because she had all this time off.
Mm-hmm.
And she found out that she could make $4,000 a week.
Yeah. The kid next door said he was making a killing until they dropped the. They were giving this mandatory, like how much they were paying him, and then they just dropped him out. Now he says, I mean, you can still do it, but it's not. For him, it's not worth it anymore. But yeah.
So yeah.
It's service industry, right? I mean, so that's why right now it's never better time to do something like what we're doing. But at the same time, it's the worst time.
Right.
Because everybody's trying to do it.
Right.
So the hardest thing is to get exposure to it, for people to see it and to like it.
Right. Yeah.
The hardest thing for me so far has been to just come up and just sit in the chair and do it. I don't know, it's so weird. Like right now, like caught in this weird parallel of dealing with him, and then I'm supposed to come and just, as soon as she comes home, I'm supposed to dump him on her and then come and do this for 4 hours. You know, and I know that she's had a day at work, and it's not that bad, but she's still tired, and he's a handful, and we can tag team him. He's, for the most part, he's usually pretty good, but when he just does, when he's a 2-year-old, for those 2 minutes every day, that just makes you want to jump off a bridge. I mean, and he's starting to become more and more of a 2-year-old, looking at you in the no, smiling at you like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. So he's finally fast enough for me. It's hard for me to chase after him. We go outside, but he's got to get out of this house. The house is so small that he needs to get out, but we have no fences, and there's a street out there, and
there's too much traffic around here.
He'll take off on me. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's one of the. I mean, even though my backyard is tiny, I am so glad I have a backyard.
That's why we need some funding. Come on, people. Get us to the right people to talk to get us some funding.
Right. Yeah. I think we're going to have to do that work as far as getting it to the right people.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I think we have the start of a good product. And the great thing about this particular product is they're short stories, so we should be able to crank them out fairly quick. And
that'd be interesting.
And the more we can make, and people can come and binge watch all of them. I think we can actually get a following.
Right. It'd be interesting. I wonder if talking about the city when you're describing the stuff up here, describe it like she's a character. Like kind of like the people are her lifeblood, or the it'd be kind of an interesting a way of her something or others looked up and watched the train go by, or just I don't know. It'd be interesting to really humanize her, the city like that. That'd be kind of interesting. Kind of like how they do in Sin City. They talk about the city as an entity like that. She doesn't give up her secrets. She doesn't do this. She doesn't.
Right.
She's cold and she's hard or whatever.
Yeah.
I know it's
that feels like
an old crime.
Exactly. It feels like a
Mickey Spillane, Mike Hammer.
Right.
Oh gosh, I love those old things. And I've watched some on YouTube.
The City Slept.
They have some old ones on YouTube. And it wasn't as bad as that, 'cause that's like being very. It's like Casablanca, how it's been so parodied over the years.
Right.
That Hammer wasn't like that. He's just a straight, just a normal PI type of guy. And the thing about him, he's not a handsome man.
Right.
He's just a guy that gets the job done. It's just.
You're talking about that old TV show?
No, there were movies that they made, and
it was Hammer.
Yeah, Mike Hammer.
Do you remember that old TV show?
Yeah, there was an old TV show.
The Hammer. I don't remember what
that was Sledgehammer.
But
it wasn't Sledgehammer. But it was. Oh, what was it? It was the guy who did the.
But it was a kind of a spoof of the whole. But he would.
Yeah.
There was the.
I
remember
chrome.
Huge ass gun, and there's this one
chrome revolver.
I remember this one scene where he pulls out his gun, and he has this big, huge silencer looking thing, a suppressor on it, and the boss goes, "Is that a silencer?" And he's like, "No, it's a loudener."
I think there's supposed to be
He goes, woo!
I think it was supposed to be a spoof on that, right? I think it was supposed to be Hammer, but like I think Stacy Keach did some like made-for-TV
Right.
miniseries back in the 80s and early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
There were Mickey Spillane. So Mickey Spillane is like Louis L'Amour
Right.
to westerns. He's
Right.
that to the crime
Right.
detective, and the character's just he's just that guy, you know. He's that guy that they're all built off of, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Why did she have to walk into my type of thing? But he never talks like that.
Right.
It's just she walks in and he falls for her, she falls for him, and type thing, because he's the big strong protector. Usually it's because she's going to double cross him.
Of all the joints and all the.
Yep. She had to walk into this
She
one.
had to walk into mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're actually really good. I didn't think they'd be that good, but
Mm-hmm.
quality movie. I enjoyed them a lot. It's like I enjoyed watching the old, even as campy as they are, the old Flash Gordon serials from the 40s that they used to do, the little half-hour show that they
But
would
what
do.
I can do, sorry, I didn't mean to
No, that's all right.
interrupt, but what I can do is in some of those scenes, like the police officer doing, I can give more of a history of what the cops are doing at this moment, and how the structure of the city is, because you got the federal guys, the help guys, and and I can give a little bit more history of the police force.
No, I don't think you need to do that yet. I think that can come
Mhm.
as we do stuff, because then it's like, just those are just layers we can add on later.
Right.
But no, I think the idea would be to show that even the cop doing his job like that has to have that on the.
Mm-hmm.
And the only other thing I was thinking is was this all just, is it these people? Is it a live broadcast, or is it just going on in the classroom? Because he cuts them off. I mean, is he allowed to turn them off? Is he allowed to turn the president's speech off? You know what I mean? Would he turn the president's speech off, or would he watch it to the last bitter end to get a nook and cranny out of it?
Well, knowing that nerdy ass teacher probably would have watched it to the very end.
Not just nerdy ass teacher, but if
Well-
it really is a cult,
Oh, he's invested. That
Then-
character, yeah, he's invested.
right? If it really is a cult, then yeah, they're gonna watch. They're gonna watch until he gets into the car and leaves, and the car is then driven out of frame.
Mhm.
Oh, did you see that? Did you see how graceful the car turned the corner?
Right.
Oh, divine.
Yeah.
It's little things like that that really,
Mm-hmm.
it speaks volumes.
Yeah, it tells the reader what world they're living
Yeah,
in.
what these people are really like. Because
Because that was one of the things that I loved about Demolition Man was, yes, you had the main story of, good versus evil type thing, but there was just silly little things where, Sandra Bullock's character was talking to one of the other cops. I can't remember that actor's name, but, he walks into her office and she has, posters all over her walls. And he's like, I cannot get over the reality of this, office. You're still obsessed with the 80s, buzzed by its brutality and high on its harshness, and he's like, is there anything in this office that doesn't violate protocol, 222 or something like that? And she's like, only you, Alfredo Garcia. And he's like, And she says to him, "Don't you ever get bored?" And he's like, "No, I'm actually really content with my job." And she's like, I knew you were going to say that. And she's like, "What I wouldn't give for some action." Be careful.
Right.
Be careful what you ask for, because then it happened. But I mean, that's But it was a great scene that just showed, where people have come. Because one of the things that was great about that movie in particular was how it showed that men were no longer men. They were really quite feminine.
Mm-hmm. We're headed that. There's attack on boys or attack on a lot of Christianity, a lot of things. Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, this scene this picture right here, should tell you. I mean, this picture. There's another picture that I have in the book. So here's this one, right? And then in the book, let's see, where's the? I think there's that one. They're all cheering. And all are invested in the display, all except for John. So that tells you right off the bat that John isn't one of the. He's not complete. He bought in because he won the award, right? He wrote the article.
He wrote the essay.
But what's the number one thing on his mind?
No, it's a girl.
Isn't. The utopia,
right?
And so, this tells you everything. And then the conversation with his girlfriend later should show you, that Sandra Bullock interaction. He's her,
right?
She's the plebe. She's the lockstep. Hey, as long as I just don't rock the boat, I'm okay.
Right.
Type thing, and I remember in the original script, I think you had them go on a tour of the energy farm.
Yeah.
And so he saw people going in and out of the building, and that was the only building they didn't get to go into.
Right.
So that's what perked his curiosity.
Right.
And so in this one...
In this one, I decided to go a little bit different.
Right, but I didn't understand how he knew that there's no other building like that in any other wind farms.
Correct.
And I don't understand what his curiosity of what's, why that one and what's that, only that one, I mean.
Right. Well, that's just it. I mean, every other wind farm, I mean... Here in Utah, I mean, we see a lot of wind farms. I'm sure it's that way across the country. But usually it's just a bunch of windmills and there's nothing else.
Right. I mean, I can understand buildings, but like I said, in the original, he goes on the tour, and so we see that his curiosity gets piqued by, hey, how come nobody's going to that one?
Right.
And then we could show a correlation between that particular building and the spike. You know what I mean?
Right.
So then he can put two and two together, because rational thinking is the devil here, right? It really is. I mean, he's not supposed to think. That's what Ernie is telling him. You don't think, I think.
Right.
You don't think the computer thinks for you. Whereas he's like, but on our tour, it's interesting that's like right where the spike is at.
Right.
Or something, you know what I mean? It's like, that's the facility that the spike said was coming from, because maybe there's a set of numbers, and there's a numbers on or something we could do. And he's like, wait, there's nothing coming in or out of that, except for people.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the energy being produced out of that?
Right.
It's in the middle of the wind farm that I know fluctuates,
Yep.
yet this isn't fluctuating.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going on here?
Right.
You know?
But yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the question of, the fluctuation thing, one of the things I wanted to do with a picture in that particular scene when he's pulling up, historical data, was I wanted to show, like a graph of, where it shows all of these other wind farms during a lull in it, to where it shows every other wind farm is not producing any energy, and this one's still producing.
Well, that could be interesting. You could have all these these charts, all these different things,
Mm-hmm.
with all these different sectors.
Mm-hmm.
And you could have that one building, say it's a sector all of its own,
Mm-hmm.
and it has that spike on it,
Mm-hmm.
and yet it's in the middle of all the wind farms, and he'd be like, and then the other thing maybe, and I don't know if it adds too much to the story, but where's the internal drive to buck the system?
Oh, for
His internal curiosity drive to
John.
actually be willing to drive around to the side, knowing, you know what I mean, like
Well, yeah.
go home. Oh, okay. You do what you're told.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what he grew up in the society. He understands that's, once he's done. I mean, what's the thing that's forcing him
Right.
to
Is
not just leave it alone?
Is it it could, it could be as simple as when the guard tells him to fuck off.
Well, maybe, but like I said, in that society, when he tells him to leave,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay,
Right.
But
yeah.
So it's like, I don't know.
So yeah, I could include things like in that particular scene, I could do a little internal about whether he's an older brother, younger brother. He didn't like, when he was growing up, he didn't like people telling him what to do, type of thing. Get into a little bit of his psychology during that scene.
Something. I mean, there's got to there's something.
Because
I mean, he wrote the article,
Mm-hmm.
but he's obviously got something. But
I guess I need to talk about the essay a little bit more too.
But what's the driving thing that makes him willing to
Right.
keep pressing the issues? Like, a lot of movies, they threaten the girlfriend, or they threaten the family, or
Right.
There's something to prove, or there's something so curious. I don't.
I hear. I think you're right. We need to delve into his psychology a little bit more.
Because
more of his backstory and psychology, why he thinks the way he thinks.
What breaks him? Because, like, what's your name? She's seeking that little bit of action, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, because of that, when Stallone goes off, and there's like the four of them,
Mm-hmm.
the two of them stay, and she kind of looks and goes with him.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells her to stay, and she just keeps going,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
Right.
that she wants the action, not understanding what she's eventually going to get into, but
Right.
there's that need, there's that pull to get into the action. What's his need and pull to understand this? I don't know.
That's the one thing that I kind of wish. I mean, this is a completely off subject, but I kind of wish that there's so many female actresses that did a kind of an action movie. I sometimes wish that Sandra Bullock would have done that.
Does
I mean,
some more?
just done one movie that was just an action movie
an action flick?
with her as the star. Because I mean, she got to do a little bit of fighting in that one, as in Demolition Man, but she was just a supporting actress. She wasn't the star of the show. But just to
That's probably what she did the most. Like
Right.
like fighting stuff.
right,
Uh,
I kind of wish that, there was some movie that somebody would have made that, because I watched another movie I watched last night was Kate on Netflix.
did you watch that?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Is it any good?
Yeah.
Uh,
You have to watch it, because the
I know.
story's not as linear as it seems on the commercials. It's got a little jumping around.
I'm getting taken out of a lot of different things just by busting through the door. The three big large dudes can't bust her door down, but she can bust through the door and take those three guys out.
Right.
Fuck that. I'm sorry. I don't care. I'm sorry. But
Well, like
she could have made a great Trinity.
Gunn is who Bullock.
Sandra Bullock. That might have been interesting.
Well,
I guess that would have been Speed.
I mean, I would have.
That'd have been a whole new take on Speed, huh?
I would have. I would have loved it, because
Yeah.
I'm a Sandra Bullock nut. I love her. I mean, but yeah, I mean,
I go all the
I
way
don't
back
know.
to Love Potion number 9.
yep.
If you've seen that,
It's one
you're a
of
fan.
yeah. I do love that movie.
That's an old one.
Yeah.
That tells you how old I am.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in Bird Box, she kind of.
Yeah,
That's
but
kind of an action movie.
She did actiony stuff, but not fighting.
Right.
I think Demolition Man's the only time she ever.
Kicked some ass.
I mean, I think, she did some action in Miss Congeniality,
Yeah.
but it still wasn't kicking ass.
But I would, I'd love her.
She actually.
Right.
Uh,
But I'd love to see her do a.
what's that kick? The roundhouse kick thing she does,
Right.
and
But I'd love to see her do more of an action type
Yeah.
of movie, where it's kind of like a Death Wish type thing, where she becomes a vigilante type thing. Because
I would rather seen Resident Evil,
Oh shit!
something like that.
Wow.
I think she could have pulled that off.
That would have been a different movie. Wow. But yeah, we can. I can definitely focus on some of the psychology behind.
You know what a perfect example
John's
of that is right
actions.
now? It's Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
She is not the vision of fighting that, say, someone like Gina Carano is.
Right.
Yet she pulls off great action.
Mm-hmm.
She's likable. She's fun.
Mm-hmm.
She's. They did a real. I did not think I was gonna like her as Wonder Woman, and she's done a really good job.
Yeah. Well, so far out of all the DC characters, she is the most likable.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of like the guy that played the Flash a little bit, but
He's all right.
out of all the personalities on the screen, she did the best. I mean, I really was disappointed in Ben Affleck, because I think he could be a perfect Batman. The way he looks,
He was. I
and
thought
his
he
structure.
was great. I liked him.
and even the way that he talks, he could be a perfect Batman. But there was something about his performance that told me he didn't give a shit
Really?
about the role.
I thought he did pretty good.
Well, he did well in that Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, that one. That's the only one he did really good in. All the other ones he sucked.
Right. All the other ones, it seems like he phoned in his submission. So yeah, I'm just going to deliver this line. You guys do whatever you're going to do. But yeah, the Batman versus Superman, I think he was committed. What are we looking at?
A lot of beautiful people.
Mm-hmm.
These are. No, don't you dare. Stop. Okay. This right here.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do I, I'm trying to figure out how to get on the screen with not showing.
There it is. Oops.
Yeah. I don't think. But Henry Cavill
Mm-hmm.
as Batman and Ben Affleck as Superman is, I think, how the casting should have gone. He looks like the playboy about town, and he looks like the All-American next door, in a sense, to me. He didn't look like Playboy Bruce Wayne to me. Now, his Batman, oh gosh, that was fun. I enjoyed that, every bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the action that they had him do, somebody really sat down and was like,
well,
they really worked that out.
That
like,
fight scene in the warehouse.
in the warehouse, and I think the one in the apartment building was the abandoned apartment building at the beginning. Oh my gosh. That's the one I love most.
Because when there's that one bad guy and he kind of jumps and he grabs the guy's head and smashes it into the thing and uses the guy's head as a push off.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, well, that's Batman right there.
That, and then the one that set it all off to me is when in that abandoned building, he goes in there and there's those guys with the guns, and he's in the doorway, and then they flip around and he's gone. And they look up in the corner, and he's perched up in the corner of the room, and then he's spinning on the crown molding as they're shooting at him. Mm-hmm. Oh man, I was hooked. I was hooked.
Right. So, yeah.
The same thing when in Wonder Woman when she just in that little town, she starts clearing out the Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
And she just starts running, and they start playing that music, and the first thing she does is whips out the lasso and just starts slinging it. It's like, there we go. Somebody actually understood who the character is. It's not about making the actor look great; it's about making the character look great. It's like the character is Wonder Woman, not Gal Gadot.
Right.
You know what I mean? And same thing with like the Batman. When they realize it's Batman and not the person wearing the suit, that's when magic happens, right? Robert Downey Jr. with Iron Man, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine.
Right.
When because Robert Downey Jr. he wasn't as huge, but he was still huge.
Right.
And when he come on the set and just said,
And that's
"Let me be Tony Stark."
And that's one of the things is that I will still say this probably till the day somebody does it better is I think Heath Ledger's Joker is the best because when Nicholson did it, don't get me wrong, Nicholson was great. It still felt like Nicholson.
Oh yeah, it was total Nicholson, yeah.
But when Heath Ledger did it, you can't see anything of Heath in there. I mean, he is a completely different person.
To an extent. I mean, I can just because I've seen, I can see...
Name another movie that he was like that.
It's not so much like that, but it's his mannerisms, some of
Right.
it. But some of his...
but even the way he walked was different.
10 Things I Hate About You.
Mm-hmm.
That's great little rom-com,
yeah.
right? But some of that I could see in it. But I'm saying a little bit.
Right.
But and I do think that Leto got shortchanged on his role because from what it sounds like, how much is actually out there of the role that they slashed to his character.
Yeah.
You can see that there's some nuances building in those scenes that. And then you look at some of the other stuff he did. You look at 2049 and that role, and you look at some, and you just, I think Mobius is going to make people go, give us the extended cut because we want to see what that Joker was. So I remember there was a meme going around that had they had the four Jokers, the Cesar Romero Joker, the Jack Nicholson Joker,
Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger, and him. And they said the Cesar Romero Joker was acid. The drug of its time was acid.
Right.
Nicholson's cocaine. Ledger's heroin.
Right.
And what's his name was meth.
Right.
And if you start, it's like, holy crap. That really does fit each one of those actual characters.
Right.
Personas, almost. And so I wanted to see what that meth head was.
Right.
In his character acts, but
well, I mean, there's what do you call them? Theories. Some fan theories out there that is saying that Jared Leto's Joker was the second Robin.
Oh, Tim Drake.
Mm-hmm.
No, Jason Todd.
Whatever. Yeah, the one that
Jason Todd. That's the one that
becomes Red Hood.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Right.
Well,
that's just a fan theory.
I remember one girl, she was talking about that. She said her idea of the DC universe to her after they came out with when they announced the Joker was, she's like, you know what it seems like to me? It's not like they have to, that they're making all these movies like the MCU to fit together so they all come together as one magical movie.
Right.
She's like, what it sounds like to me is what they've done is every kid has a toy box with all these toys in it.
Right.
And then they're just giving the toys to directors and say, go make something. And that's how you have this Joker, you have that Joker, you have this character of that, this character of Batman. You know, it's because you're just letting them have fun playing with their toys.
Yeah.
And it's what it feels like. I mean, that's Shazam. The whole idea with the, the plastic and then the Joker, that was psycho.
You're talking about the
Joaquin Phoenix
one, yeah.
When he finally flips at the end, and I tell you what, when he first does his nervous twitch laugh, oh, man, that sent goosebumps just like when Ledger does his "Listen to me." Oh my gosh, that was. I think that's the defining moment.
Yes, you do. You really do. My favorite speech in the Heath Ledger one is when he's talking to Two-Face in the hospital.
Yeah.
And he's like, say somebody says that, you're going to blow up a whole school bus of children. Nobody panics because it's all part of the plan.
It's all part of the plan.
But, say somebody, kills, and everybody goes nuts. He's like,
yeah,
it was you killed him. It's your plan. He's like, do I really look like a man with a plan? Like, I'm like a dog chasing a car. I wouldn't know what to do when I caught it.
I mean,
Gordon, he has a plan.
I mean,
they're schemers.
You probably, write that script once in a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And that probably was theirs. There's so many, you never start with the head.
He gets all woozy and he doesn't even feel the next bam.
Wow.
See?
There's that. But like, and then there's this, he's playing around, he's doing this, he's psychotic. And then there's that really psychotic break, when he's got that fake Batman tied up and he's doing that thing and that guy doesn't pay attention and he just screams that blood curdling scream. Listen to me.
Right.
It's just like, holy crap. It's like this whole nother, that's the standout scene to me.
I mean, that's the problem is that one role. I mean, there were so many great scenes. I mean, even the way he kept changing his story about the scars.
That's what I mean. It's a once in a lifetime script, right? I mean, you don't write that again.
Right.
I mean, has Quentin what's the best thing Quentin has
Tarantino?
wrote?
God.
Is it
the thing
the first one?
The thing is it's funny
not Reservoir Dogs.
because me, I've always said that I love stories and it's the story that drives a movie and stuff. But at the same time,
What can I think of?
Tarantino has so many good scenes in a movie.
Right.
Because that movie Hateful Eight with Kurt Russell. Russell has so many great scenes in that movie. Because one of my favorite scenes in the movie is
it's just hard to watch because of the language. But I mean,
well, there's the scene where they're in the wagon and they're on their way to and he asks for the Lincoln letter, and so he's reading the Lincoln letter and he turns to the girl, the prisoner, and he's like, "You see this, bitch? This was an actual correspondence between him and the President of the United States. Can you believe that?" She's like, "No." And he's like, and he starts pointing at it, and she spits on it. And you have to catch it, because it's so quick. But it reminded me of Roadrunner or Bugs Bunny, because he hits her and she falls out of the thing, and for a second, Kurt Russell stares at the camera and with this look of shock on his face, like, "Oh shit,
I'm going to."
And then he's quick. But yeah,
right.
I love it.
Oh yeah. I mean.
But yeah, I mean, then the reoccurrence of that letter in the movie is is really cool too. Everybody's talking about it, but yeah. Anyway, how long have we been on?
3 hours.
Okay, well, I'm going to wet myself here in a bit.
I'm seeing a healthy shade of yellow.
So
maybe a little brown in there.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. The story, we're going to finish these pictures. We're going to keep adding, to the psychology of John, kind of give a little bit more backstory to him, and maybe some about the city.
Yeah, to the city. I think the city will change how you describe how everything's interacting. The train with the city.
Right.
And the people, what I mean?
Because when I first wrote that first scene, I thought about talking about the history of how Liberty came to be, but I figure we'll do that over time.
Well, but that's why I almost thought maybe the idea is, you see the town called Liberty sign, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see the train, either you see the butt of it whipping past this way, and we see the Liberty written backwards,
right?
Because
that's possible. That'd be cool.
Not only that, but so it's a
right.
It's a symbolic, right?
Right.
And with a little piece of paper or something whipping up in the air, type. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then on the inside is them clicking something, and it's that narration of "Welcome to Liberty City." Liberty City was founded in blah 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 blah. As a way to, and then it gives over to the president doing that speech. Inaugurating the city, maybe, or something like that type thing.
That's not a bad idea.
And so as we're going and winding through the town, he's talking about, and then that's what I was meant by coalescing stuff. So he's talking specifically about all the green stuff, the saving the energy, or saving the environment, and we see all those environmental things as we wind. And then he starts talking about how they brought commerce and we see the city part, see the commerce part of it, and then we see the other part, and then we dive into the character and go.
Right.
Might be an interesting.
I agree.
Thing to
so
do.
The story's not done yet. But yeah.
You know what the worst part is? Here's the worst part. Is I have ideas, but for me to write them down, I'll forget half of it in the process of writing it. Because I can't write or type fast enough. Like, I sat last night and I was reading the first stuff that you sent, and I was like editing that speech, and some of the things were flowing like in a really cool manner, but yet I was like, I really should get up and write this down, but I know I'll just forget it, and so I didn't. So I know there's some things I missed, about it. It's like, that's why I couldn't explain it properly in the beginning of what the disconnect I was feeling a little bit to it, but it's like, so for me, the editing process like that's rough. We really need to find an editor.
Yeah, good luck with that one. I've tried.
I don't know,
especially one that will work for free.
How come we can't have a friend that just sucks up sci-fi fantasy books? Like,
well,
it's every.
I know a girl that might want, but I don't know. What
about friend Steve? Do you ever talk to Steve anymore?
Steve.
You had a friend back when you lived in. I remember they came over one time. Steve with his wife, and they were very sci-fi fantasy fans. I thought his name was Steve.
I don't remember Steve. Sorry.
Okay.
Anyway, but burnoutstudios.com.
Yay!
You
know what? Please comment down and I know it's kind of hard, to give your opinion, but please tell us: are we on the right track, or what did you feel like when we were first going through it? Give us some feedback. Help us with the editorial process. Please comment.
Right.
For the love of all that is holy and special, please comment.
That's going to be your sign off from now on. For all that is holy and special. The end.
The end.
All this holy and special. Yep. Burnoutstudios.com. Come and visit our
love of all that is holy and special. Do it like Chris Farley. Oh gosh, they were talking about tangents.
Right. Anyway,
go watch Louder with Crowder from 3 days ago when unfortunately Norm Macdonald passed away from cancer that he didn't tell anybody about. And they've got some stuff on there where they talk about one of the skits from SNL where Norm with Chris Farley, and oh my gosh, it's freaking hilarious. Go watch it. It's a beautiful